Lunch Money, presented by FantasyGuru.com on Bettor Sports Network.
Flip on the TV, and I have to see a personal one-on-one sit-down with Aaron Rodgers. Now act like a douchebag for the next 10 minutes. Can you do that? My blood pressure jumps. I have to go take a pill and maybe even a cold shower after that.
Yeah, folks think I've been mad already. I'm ready to go Vesuvius here.
Okay. I just go to the bathroom and come back.
Give me 3 minutes, John.
I am in full-throated support of games in London. If nothing else, it pisses off my co-host, which I'm always down for.
We can shoot something into space, hundreds of thousands of miles, all these kind of at these astronomical speeds, right? We can't put a chip in the football to tell if it's his first down.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We'll take a good look at my co-host this morning. Ray Flowers is a man without a care in the world. The baseball season is over, Ray. Congratulations, my man. You made it another year here. You covered, 6 months, day after day, game after game, IL stint after IL stint, pickup after pickup, drop after drop. Congrats, Ray. You made it to the finish line.
Thanks. Yeah, it is a long, obviously regular season, arduous journey. I wish it was only 6 months. You know this. I'll have 3 weeks off here in October where I'm doing just football, and then November 1st I start baseball again. So it's 11 months a year. It's a grind. It's a journey. Hopefully the people at FantasyGuru.com, the people listening to us here at BSN had success. Had some bad beats that were laid out in the Discord over at FantasyGuru.com. People just missing out in their head-to-head. Don't play head-to-head. Just missing out in their head-to-heads. But yeah, it's kind of a sad but happy time when you reach the end of the regular season.
I suggest, Ray, you take another week off in early November because the World Series is still going to be going on in the first week of November. We don't need you to be breaking. I mean, the season will not be over, Ray. So take another week off. You know, no one is going to be sweating you if you wait until like November 9th. To get those rankings.
Yeah, but you got stuff to do, Kyle. So you just get backed up. And that's the thing, we were talking about this before the show started. You can wait, but if you wait in this, at least in my world, if you wait, you get screwed. You get run over. So there's always something that comes up. There's always something that's needed. There's time parameters with all kinds of things. It's like, I always feel, and I had a conversation with a coworker last week about this, and I said, look, don't ever stop your day at 4:00 because you're done. Start working on tomorrow. There's always going to be something that comes up that gets in your way.
Yep, always something to worry about, which is why we love doing it, right? Good to have you with us here on Lunch Money. Kyle Alfred, Ray Flowers with you. Producers, got Heather Klein and Brian Drozda. Join us in the chat room. We are getting closer and closer to week number 5 of the fantasy football season. Tonight's the night, the battle of backup running backs. Is that what we call this? Colts taking on the Broncos. That game is going to get the week off and roaring. Again, it's on Amazon Prime. I don't know if I still need to mention that to people, but I feel like I do. If you're still searching after 4 weeks of where in the hell do I find this game, you're never going to find it. I don't think that's happening. Although the viewership numbers have been very strong with the switch to Amazon. So, Ray, that is only going to make the NFL more hungry to stream their games because the first real test run is what we've got with Amazon. And like I said, people are jumping on board. They're fine with it for a Thursday night.
Yeah, again, it's the world we live in. And, I have Amazon Prime. We talked about this. We discussed it before the season began. It's no big deal to me, but I know some people probably don't, which is rough. I'm old enough to remember when, it was NBC, CBS, and that was basically it. I guess ABC too. And it's like you just watch football games when we were kids, right? They were all there. We all knew where to go. We knew when they were on. Now it's a different world. So hopefully people are enjoying the Amazon experience. I've watched and found I will say this, the visual is great. Like the HD.
Man, did you read my mind? That's exactly where I was going. Ray has a highfalutin AV system, right? Ray actually spends money. Yeah. I do not. I've got a crappy TV. It's probably... the game it's maybe I don't know, like a 36-inch TV. It's nothing special at all. I'm not into TVs or any of that stuff, so I go with the cheap ones. Ray, I have noticed a definite viewing upgrade on my crappy TV when it's Amazon, when it's being streamed versus when it's coming over like a satellite or a direct TV or something. My TV is so crappy, Ray, that if it's a very quick scan or pan of the camera, I get that lag,
Mhm.
get a bit of lag. I don't get any of that with Amazon. Like streaming damn near might be superior to plugging in or to shooting a satellite dish. I totally agree with you that it's better on Amazon.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I've got the high definition and all that kind of stuff, right? And HDR10 and all that. I've got a Samsung. I am. It's always interesting because you pay like with Amazon, you don't pay extra, like, or maybe I don't think you do because it's Amazon Prime, so you just get access to everything. But when it's an HDR movie, it doesn't look good as the football game, and
Mm.
it's like, I mean, come on, man. It's supposed to be like, why, if the football game can look like that, why don't your streaming movies look like that? So, the good news is the football does look great.
Yeah.
So anyone, even if you don't have a great TV, it probably, like you're saying, looks better. But if you've got a fancy TV, I'm sure it looks fantastic because it does on this end.
Well, that thing about movies and such. I don't watch movies. Ray watches a lot of them. I told you this about a year ago, Ray. I was up late one night and like TBS was showing one of those Justice League movies.
Mhm.
Nothing else was on, so I left it on. And Ray, you're talking about, it doesn't look as good. There is so much crazy ass movement in those action movies now that I don't blame any TV for being unable to keep up with it. And I couldn't even. I was telling you I'm watching these like battles. It's Aquaman versus I don't know Superman, whatever the hell it is. And Ray, I'm literally catching up to like what's going on about 30 seconds after it happens. Like there is so much flying around. There is so much up and down, left and right. Like I enjoy the Bourne movies, but I also blame them for how everybody has to do fight scenes like Bourne movies now. Like I can't just watch a fight scene, Ray. It's like, oh my God, I've got to take a pill afterwards. Another pill. It's not just watching Aaron Rodgers, it's watching these fight scenes. Got to calm down. I got to remove myself from the scene, the action scenes. I'm an old man and I've been actioned out of the market, Ray. They're too quick.
We've got a lot of things to unpack there quickly.
Yeah.
The way movies used to be shot, if you go watch a Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly movie, it was a wide angle shot and they were moving across the screen, right? They didn't cut. It was one take, right? Now everything's cut. And so the fight scenes they're tight, right? Because they're trying to be graphic. And then they're editing the crap out of it. You can't, and then you deal with these new TVs, which are so good that they refresh at a rate that doesn't quite match the film rate. It's a whole big thing, but film rates, TV rates, they don't quite match. Even when you get a great TV, you get judder or stutter, right? It's especially on panning shots. You'll see that a lot. So there's a lot of things going on, but to your main point, it is difficult to watch some of this stuff, especially if you don't have the perfect setup, if you're not the right distance from the TV. And even then, like the Bourne stuff, I agree with you. I love those movies. And I would prefer pull it back, give me a 6 foot away shot and watch the guys go. I don't need 37 cuts. And I agree with you. I don't want to get nauseous while I'm watching.
Yeah, I enjoy the Bourne movies, but they've kind of ruined fight scenes ever since. Everybody wants to steal that. Yeah, kudos to them. They created it. Anyway, these are problems for another day. The problems we've got today is we've got to get you set for week 5 of the NFL season. We are here to do it over the next 3 hours, taking you up until 3 o'clock Eastern. Want to thank everybody who had fun yesterday with the memorabilia showdown. That was a really good time. Ray and I had fun with it, and we'll try to stick that in from time to time. Again, join us in the chat room if you'd like to voice any opinions, any thoughts. I see Scott Ray in the chat room has thanked you personally for a very good baseball finish. Are you excited for the playoffs? We're going to talk about the playoffs, Ray. It's new this year. I don't think we can call it improved until we see how it goes, but it is new. I'm kind of excited for the weekend, but baseball is kind of running into a problem, Ray, that it's been fighting for a while. We get to this really high water point of the season where things are on the line, the games matter, every pitch matters, all that stuff. And honestly, Ray, there was so much other stuff competing with it. And it isn't just other sports. It's general life. This is a busy time of year. You're doing things for fall and you're out and about. The weather's good. You got college football, NFL. You got football like every damn night. Hockey and basketball are coming. I will watch all this stuff. Don't get me wrong, Ray, and I will enjoy the baseball postseason, all that. But man, it is a challenge to be somebody that is pitch after pitch, game after game, 4-hour slog after 4-hour slog, following the entire baseball postseason. You got to get in shape for the next month or so.
It sounds dumb, but it's kind of, I mean, when you have to cover all the teams, like I'm a Giants fan, you're a Cardinals fan. I don't get much chance during the regular season to sit there and watch a 3.5-hour baseball game
Yeah.
straight. I'm watching games, I'm watching highlights, I'm looking at analysis, I'm doing football. Like it's just, there's no time. So it is a weirder experience for me, like you're saying, to actually sit down and be able to watch a 3.5-hour game straight and not have to be worried about doing other things. Because in football, we got 12, 13 games going all the time. It's just, you're all over the place. So yeah, it's weird. I draw an example too, like with hockey. I know when hockey starts up, and it will here soon, when it starts up, I was watching a game on last night. Dallas was on, and it's like, it's hard to follow the puck because you have to train me at least. I have to train my eyes to follow the puck again because it's moving. So, and after 2 or 3 games, you're fine, but it's like, it's new. It's, so yeah, the postseason represents some challenges, but it's great. Every at bat matters. There's tension. There's heroes. There's all. I love this time of year, as I know you do, Kyle.
Yeah. Well, and this kind of leads right to the lunch menu, and right to the appetizer. We got the schedule set for this weekend. And again, for those who don't regularly follow it, you've got 4 series that will start tomorrow. They are a best of 3 setup. All these series will be done by Sunday night. So it's a quick rush into the postseason. Ray, I've complained about this for years, and I just want to complain again on the appetizer here. I hate how they schedule these games. And you were just talking about all the games going on. I guess baseball has just come to the conclusion that, hey, man, baseball fans deal with it all season long. Let's do it in the postseason. We have all these games, Ray, just shoved on top of one another. And, I'm old-fashioned, the fact that I love to sit there and, hey, man, if Tampa and Cleveland's the only game on, I'm going to watch all 9 innings. I don't want to have to, oh, my gosh, my team is now playing after 5 innings of watching the Rays and the Guardians. And thus I don't want to say wasted, but it's like, oh, I'm following things here. There's a storyline developing. Now I'm going to leave so I can go watch the Phillies against the Cardinals. Oh, that Cardinals game is now running into Seattle, Toronto. Those are 2 exciting teams. And all of a sudden, Ray, I've got too many choices. Now, again, I got a small TV. I can't split everything up, all 4 games at once. But this scheduling stuff, it's really maddening. Like tomorrow, the first game starts at 12:05 Eastern. Why can't that game start at 11:05 Eastern? Why can't it? And before you say, oh, it's too early, they do it on Sundays all season long. Remember, they got that Sunday Peacock game of the week, and it's always an East Coast game. They play it at 11 a.m. For people who complain about waking up early, try and see who's in the starting lineup for that Sunday morning baseball game. We all had to deal with that for the first time this year. But Ray, why not tomorrow? Start Tampa, Cleveland at 11:05 Cleveland time. That's fine. It's 10 a.m. my time. It's 8 a.m. Ray's time. Okay, that's early, but baseball, boom, we're going. Start the next game at 2. Start the next game at 5. Start the next game at 8. Now, I realize these games don't take just 3-hour windows, but that's a reasonable 11, 2, 5, 8. Reasonable. Instead, Ray, we have 12, 2, 4, 8. That's Friday. On Saturday, Ray, it's 12, 4, 7, 8. Now, on Sunday, I would suspect 1 or 2 of these series is over, and we'll see how the schedule looks. Mm-hmm. But, Ray, it just doesn't make any sense. And I realize there are powers that be much more important than myself. I also understand that 3 of these 4 series are taking place in the Eastern time zone. Mm-hmm. If, say, San Diego had been hosting this, I think it'd be a lot more manageable. But we've got this excitement for this opening weekend of the postseason, and I kind of feel with the way they've scheduled it, Ray, they've at least taken away my enjoyment of this opening week. This is not a schedule that really fits for myself here.
There's a lot of things that I think all sports could improve upon, and sometimes the viewer experience, I don't know if it gets lost because there's money involved and dollars and all this kind of stuff, but Yeah. I mean, yeah. Now, the argument I would make against what you said is that we want the players to be as comfortable and in as normal a scenario as we can get. They're used to playing it like one of two times basically all the time, right? 1 or 7, 1 or 7, 1 or 7. Doesn't matter where they're at. It's always so now we're having to play all these weird times. So let's cater to that. Well, if you got 4 games going in the day, unless you're going to stick them all at 1 and 7, right? Your argument, you start staggering them apart like you're talking about, that argument's out the window. So now it's not about the players because again, we're staggering. And if we're going to stagger,
I mean, Ray, if you're agreeing to start at 12, is an hour got to kill these guys?
well, I'll say that I think it could. Well, here's the thing: as someone who likes to get in a routine and everything, you know, I thought when we started here at BSN, which is 9 o'clock Pacific time, right? I thought I'll get up and start at 7, I'll be fine. I got to get up at 6. I need the extra hour to get ready for the show. So, that's me sitting here in my pajamas, right? Like that's not going out and hitting a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So, they're creatures of habit. Now, again, we're not worried about that because we are changing the schedule. So that argument is gone. So I'm back to your position, which is what are we doing? Like it's not the best for the players. Cool. Okay, fine. Let's make it the best for the viewers. It's not really that either. I don't understand. I don't get it either.
Well, and this will continue next week too, Ray. When we still have 4 series going, we've got the 4 this weekend, but then we'll have 4 best of 7 series going, and it'll be a madhouse of scheduling. Like I'm kind of complaining about this. This is not as bad as what we're going to see next week. And I get it. People probably don't care, Ray. It's baseball. I watch my team, and that's all that matters. But I guess I'm speaking up for those that really do enjoy it. Like I remember, Ray, back in the day, every game had its own window. Even when the NLCS and the ALCS was going on, one game was in the daytime, probably started about 3 o'clock. The other game started at like 7:30. And you could watch both games. I could come home from school, watch the National League game, and settle in for the American League game. And then the next day it was an AL game in the daytime, NL at night. I mean, they flip-flop these things. The NFL, it's very well known. It's 1, it's 4, it's 8. You know that. There's no, well, outside of London, there's no 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock. There's none of that. And the sports are very different. I get it. I just, when I saw this schedule come out, Ray, I was like, first off, we're doing the show. So I'm not going to be able to really devote time to these games.
Right.
But like Saturday is a day I'd really like to settle in. And you've got 1 game starting before 4 o'clock. 1 game. Why don't we have both games before 4 o'clock? Now we're just shoving everything deep into Saturday night. So, okay, just complaining.
No, I think I agree with you. And I think it's a good point. And it's unfortunate that the powers that be don't care because it makes all the sense in the world what you're saying, Kyle.
Well, the good news, well, I don't know if it's good news, but and maybe it isn't. But next week, Ray, we got the Dodgers out west. So they'll always get the late game. They should. We got Houston in the Midwest. So they're probably going to get screwed all week, and they'll be the daytime game the entire week. Because the Yankees, Ray, we know they're going to be in prime time.
Of course.
It's like a given, 8 o'clock Eastern every night, Yankees. Braves are the defending champs. They're in the Eastern time zone. So they may get some daytime action too. My bet would be, just a guess here, Ray, this is out without me being some kind of maestro of TV programming. I will make a wager now that every Yankees-Dodgers game will be in prime time and everybody else gets the daytime action. Just a guess there, Ray. That's how it's going to work next week.
Probably accurate. I would say you're prognosticating accurately there, I would guess. Yeah.
And believe me, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. What is your appetizer for this Thursday, Ray?
My appetizer is, one more day of baseball here too. Market, and it just goes to show you that we got to let things play out. And this is something we're dealing with in football too. Right now, everyone's trying to make changes and they've been making changes since week 2. Sometimes you got to give these things a little bit of time. And, Marcus Semien went to the Rangers, new contract, all these expectations, and he was awful. Okay. At the end of April, he was hitting 149 with no home runs and 2 steals. At the end of May, 1/3 of the season, at the end of May, he was hitting 199 with 1 home run. And I remember getting questions at fantasyguru.com, and I might have told someone at some point move on. But I know in the main I was like, you got to hold this guy. It's just you got to do it unless you have some rare scenario. 199 with 1 home run through 47 games. In the end, he did not just 20-20 for the first time. He went 25-25 for the first time. He was hitting 199 with 1 home run through a third of the season. He ended up hitting 26 home runs. He drove in 83. He had 101 runs scored. He stole 25 bases. He went 25-25. He went 25-25 with 100 runs scored and hit 248 after hitting 199 for a third of the season. So again, I don't know how many people listening right now are into baseball anymore because everyone's made that transition over to football. Maybe it's something we should revisit again next year. But it's one of those things that baseball is kind of unique among sports. It certainly is better at this than football because football is so much a matchup-based week-to-week game. In baseball, we got 162, and you just got to let it play out, right? There'll be hot streaks, there'll be cold streaks, there'll be moderate streaks. And in the end, a guy like Marcus Semien, who plays every day, will fill up the scoreboard. He won't be a superstar, but he'll be damn good. And if you just let him play and do his thing, you'll be pleased with the results.
And Ray, this is the challenge, I think, for people who play both sports, for people like you and I who cover both sports. Right now we are, roughly speaking, a third of the way through the regular season of fantasy football. And I know it's not exactly, but it's close. Here's the issue, Ray. We sit here and say, well, give Terry McLaurin a chance. Give Aaron Rodgers a chance to be Aaron Rodgers, or don't worry, Matt Ryan will go back to being the usual Matt Ryan. Like all these things, give it a chance. We just don't have that time. Like a Semien, that kind of start rate in fantasy football, you cut the guy. That's Darnell Mooney, Ray. What you talking about the first 2 months of Marcus Semien, that's Darnell Mooney now.
Fair point.
And with Darnell Mooney, it's like, get rid of the guy. You got to find somebody else. You got to make moves right now. Like, we've even got questions in the chat room. Somebody's got a trade offer involving Jonathan Taylor. And it's like, wait a second, man. It's 1 week of Taylor out. This is the number 1 draft pick or number 2 draft pick in every fantasy draft. And you're making trades, you're bailing. Well, Jonathan Taylor's also had a slow start. And you start to think about, okay, we're a third of the way through the season. Is this a good, on the surface, Ray, I see that. And to me, it's an overreaction. Like, why are you moving on from Jonathan Taylor? Why are you trading him when he's hurt? You're not getting full value for what Jonathan Taylor is, what he can be. But I'm sure the retort is, well, he hadn't done anything in the first 4 weeks. Now I'm dealing with an injury. He's not going to he's going to get me a big fat 0 in week 5. Who knows if this stretches on? So the immediacy of making decisions in fantasy football, that is dramatically different from baseball. It's almost like 2 different frames of references. In baseball, you can breathe a little. You can be patient. Ray, I don't know if patience is really rewarded in fantasy football. Maybe the impatient soul out there maybe gets the biggest reward in fantasy football.
Well, and there's also another main difference too is the head-to-head nature of it, right? Like if you're playing head-to-head this year in baseball and Marcus Semien was hitting 199 with 1 home run in May, you dropped him. There's no way you kept him because it's a third of the season. Like, I haven't won a freaking week because of this guy. He's gone. Well, then the last 2/3 of the season, he was winning weeks. So, there's that too. Football's head-to-head. It's week to week. I think that something else, we have to remember 162 games, 17 games. So I always make this, compare. It's a quarter of the way through the season. That's a good way to look at it, quarter of the way through the regular season. But people will freak out after like week 1. And I'm like, that's like 10 games in baseball. Like, you're going to drop a guy after 32 at-bats? You would never do that. Why would you drop a guy? So you try to draw loose comparisons and parallels. It's very difficult. And again, I mean, the stuff with injured players too, I think, is the most fascinating because there's always people that think, and Taylor's a perfect example. I've seen copious amounts of questions about Jonathan Taylor, trading him away, trading to get him. We don't know how much time Jonathan Taylor's going to miss. We have no idea. It could just be 1 week. It could be totally fine next week. That's kind of what we're thinking, but that doesn't mean that's the case. Doesn't mean he comes back next week and he handles 2 carries and he makes it worse. But the idea is so prevalent in fantasy football that all of us know that an injured guy is going to miss X amount of time, or we know he's only going to miss this amount of time, he's going to be fine when he comes back. People try to take advantage of that through the trade market, and none of us know. It's just it's a wild scenario. It's one thing to say a guy tweaked his ankle in baseball. Okay, maybe he runs a little bit less, still can play, still can hit home runs, still can hit. In football, you get an injury, you may not even be on the field, right? It's such a I've always been fascinated by the idea in fantasy football when a big time player gets hurt, some people want to get the hell out, and some people want to get the hell in.
Well, I think they've all probably been burned by a situation that just drags on and on and on. And, you know, what is this? Asani. Like, Ray, here's a question. Just to kind of talk about it because, again, it's a third of the way through the season. He would give up Jonathan Taylor and Jerry Jeudy. Those are big names.
Mm-hmm.
He would get Christian Kirk and A.J. Dillon. Now, to me, it doesn't fit. If you want to do Kirk for Jeudy, fine. But like A.J. Dillon, Jonathan Taylor, there is just so much upside you're giving up on with Jonathan Taylor. And, you know, in baseball, we can make these trades because we know, well, that guy's going to hit third and get 4 at-bats every night, no matter what. With all these running backs, Ray, right now what I'm saying, I feel strong about it. A week from now, we get more information, we feel awful about it. So understand, folks, with trades, and when you're trading injured players, you're going in blind right now with Jonathan Taylor. Like, to me, Ray, if I'm making a trade, I want all the information I can get my hands on. I want to know who's in, who's out, rolls, carries, all that stuff, touches, snap counts. Ray, trading Jonathan Taylor, I'm not going to, you know, I feel it's wrong, but it may be right. But the problem is you're making a trade blind. You don't know if he's back next week or back in week 10. And that's a bad spot to be in trade talks, where you're making a move, a very pivotal one. This is not, you know, the guy you drafted as your 4th running back.
Yeah.
This is the guy you built your team around, and you're saying, I'm going to make a trade in this very uncertain situation. I'm not that type of owner, that type of player, that type of person. Some people are. And Ray, honestly, some of those people who take that risk, maybe it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe Aaron Jones gets hurt this week and, you know, pops an Achilles, and A.J. Dillon becomes the guy all season for Green Bay. Wow, what a move. You nailed it. You traded Jonathan Taylor at the exact appropriate time. But I don't think it's time to be trading guys when you have no idea what the injury is or how long he's going to be out. You're like guessing. You may look brilliant 2 weeks from now. Jonathan Taylor's still out. Wow, look how smart I am. But you may look like a fool, Ray, if he comes back and, in effect, did what he did in his rookie year, where he didn't do anything for 8 weeks and then was like a top 3 running back for the final 8 weeks. Like, that's the risk you're accepting. That's the risk you're welcoming if you're trading a guy like Jonathan Taylor right now.
Yeah, and it's not you drafted this guy top 3 overall, so you gotta hold him. It's not that, but remember why you drafted him as a top 3 overall player. That those reasons are all still legitimate. I kind of look at it this way. I kind of look at it as if Jones stays healthy with the Packers, Dillon in a best case scenario is kind of the worst case scenario for Taylor, right? That's kind of what that we got there. So is that a forward move? Well, if Taylor's healthy, and it's an if, let's assume he is, it's an ankle issue. If Taylor's healthy, it's very reasonable, if not extremely likely, that he outproduces Dillon, right? And again, I think it would take the best case, worst case for them to meet up. So we're not gaining anything there. In fact, we're losing there. Like you said, the Kirk for Jeudy piece, okay, all right, yeah. You run an issue with making a trade of your foundational piece, as you mentioned, Kyle. You run into an issue of what is the return? Me, you, both of us would say this. If I'm trading my number 1 guy, I need to win the trade. You're not winning this trade.
Yeah.
You might come out ahead a little bit, but you're not winning the trade. So I'm just not doing it. And again, it could be the wrong call. And I feel really tough because I've seen Jonathan Taylor, we were talking about it over and over again this last week. I don't know the answer to this. Everyone can ask me the question, and it's not stopping them from asking. Everyone's asking.
Yeah.
I don't know how long he's going to be out. I don't know how bad the ankle is. I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the office. I don't know. So you're asking me to answer questions that I don't have the data to answer.
And again, that uncertainty, Ray, then I should get even more. I am trading you a totally uncertain piece. Give me more. I need more certainty back. And this trade doesn't fit. Now, another thing to add here, we talk on and on about running back depth. This Taylor news, Ray, is probably putting that to the test. Well, our user who's talking about this trade, he's got Aaron Jones, he's got Rashad Penny, Kareem Hunt, Rashad White. He's 1-3, desperate for a win. The reason you build up running back depth, like he did pretty good here.
Yeah.
He still has Jones and Penny. Like, Ray, you still have top 20 running backs to turn to. So I don't consider this like, oh my gosh, I'm 1-3. I don't have Jonathan Taylor. I'm soon going to be 1-4. You have Jones and Penny. You can even make a move to Kareem Hunt. The reason you build depth is it allows an injury like Taylor to occur, and you're not forced into a bad decision.
Right.
Like, I see that depth, and I'm saying, you know what? I'll chance it. I for damn sure need to know how long Jonathan Taylor is going to be out before I'm trading. That's kind of the end all be all of this, Ray, is I got to know. And I know what then follows. Well, then he's worth nothing. You know what? I'm fine with that. I actually am. I'm fine with that. And maybe he is still worth something if it's out 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Maybe I just got to survive these next 3 or 4 weeks. I hate trading a true difference maker at any point. At any point. And I would really dislike the idea of trading Jonathan Taylor on this news for this week because of desperation with the uncertainty. Like, you throw all this in, doesn't add up for me.
Yeah, and remember this too. All you got to do is make the playoffs. That's the beauty of head-to-head. I don't like head-to-head. It's not my favorite system. Okay, we've talked about this for a long time. But all you have to do is make the playoffs. So you don't need to have the best team. In fact, it doesn't matter at all if you have the best team in the league in week 5. It doesn't mean jack. You got to have the best team when the playoffs start. And do I feel better about Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, like me. I'm playing the long game. Now you're 1-3. Okay, we got to get to the playoffs. I'll take an example. We talked about this on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius yesterday on Jeff Mann's show. We had a caller call in who's in the Elite Sports League, the Listener League, and he's 4-0. Okay. We went and looked. He's last place in the league in points. Last place in the league in points. And somehow he's 4-0. Okay. So he was joking we took the call. He was joking. He's like, I don't think I'm going to win a game the rest of the season, but I'm 4-0 right now. Go and look. You're 1-3. Go and look at the points for and against. Like, go look at where, if you're last in the league in points, we might need to do something. If you're 5th in the league in points, if you're 3rd in the league in points, maybe you're just unlucky. But remember, again, we just got to get to the playoffs. It's a slow build. That's why working the waiver wire, working the trade market, staying the course, all those things matter. But we don't want to do a snap decision trade with our best player in week 5 merely because we're 1-3.
I'm on the other end of that stick, Ray. I'm 3-1 in a league, and I have like 30 fewer points than the 0-4 team. It
happens.
Yeah. And some people love that. To me, I look at it and say, well, there's still a lot of work to do. I'm not really 3-1. This is a 3-1, and all I've played are the Texans, the Falcons, and the Seahawks. That's all I've played here in the first 4 weeks. I've just gotten lucky with the schedule. So being realistic about your team, also not a bad thing to understand. Those are the appetizers today. Main course, you know where we're going. Thursday night football. Get you set for the Colts and the Broncos. Tyler Beaker is going to join us coming up in hour 3. He's with fantasyguru.com. Of course, he joins us every Thursday to kind of break things down from a game script perspective. And that game script's maybe uncertain this week, Ray. I mean, we talked about it a lot yesterday. It's official now. Taylor's out. We've got news. Phillip Lindsay has been activated from the practice squad. I would assume he's going to be out there tonight, Ray. So what do we have? 3 running backs probably in play for the Colts. Probably 3 for the Broncos. I mean, I'd have to assume Latavius Murray dresses.
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't think it's iffy. Okay, we'll find out 90 minutes before the game. But Ray, I look at both these backfields, and if I'm in a PPR, I think Naheem Hines is fine to start. I'm okay with that. If it's non-PPR, I'm not. If it's a PPR or non-PPR, to me, I think Melvin Gordon makes the cut here. Now, the only 2 guys I feel good about tonight, Ray, are Hines in a PPR and probably Melvin Gordon as a flex. I can stomach an RB2, but my guess is people are probably in a better situation They probably don't need Melvin Gordon as their RB2.
Unless they had Javonte Williams.
Perhaps, yeah. And then
No.
he elevates to the RB2, and then your decision's kind of made. The other guys, Ray, yeah, DFS is different. They're cheap. You go for the big win, all that stuff. Go for it. But if I'm like in season-long play, Ray, these guys, way too flammable, way too dangerous, way too toxic for me to be sticking in my starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty. And, you know, we almost want to say, well, of course they're going to carry the football. Bills don't ever run the ball. Like, it's possible that the teams come out with a game script that we're not expecting. Again, we'll talk to Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com about that later. But with the uncertainty, with the roles, with the uncertainty with the snap counts, with the uncertainty with the personnel, it's dicey when you're looking at the backfields with these two teams tonight if we're looking for certitude.
Mm-hmm. In terms of side dishes, we've got some other games to preview for week 5. We haven't gotten any previews, so we got a lot of work to do on that front. Mention that we will give you some thoughts on the MLB playoffs, the 4 series beginning tomorrow. Got the lunch hunch. We got Duke's Den. We got a follow-up on baseball memorabilia from yesterday. Heather Klein found an article, Ray, and hunted down the top 10 sell prices for baseballs. What we have seen, like which ball's gone for the most, the least, all that stuff. So we'll run through that list just to kind of give people an idea of what some of these balls have sold for. And it's not just the McGuire, the Sosa, the Bonds. There's some other balls that might surprise you, some that have gone on the market in recent years. So we'll run you through that. In terms of our bet du jour, Ray, I am sticking with Thursday Night Football for my bet du jour. Yesterday, that PSG bet. I know Ray was following this. My what was it, minus 115 on Paris Saint-Germain to go to Benfica and get the win. Ray, they were up 1-0 in like the 85th minute. And they scored an own goal. And they got a tie. And I lost the bet.
Yikes.
Crap. Utter crap. An own goal. Didn't even earn it. Own goal. Today I will improve. My bet du jour for tonight, again, Thursday Night Football. Matt Ryan under 229.5 passing yards, minus 110. Ray, it's been really bad. We'll get into the numbers in the next segment. This offense is adrift and lost at sea. And now they don't have Jonathan Taylor. I'm not feeling good about the Colts' chances tonight. Maybe they surprise me. And, we consider them a playoff team. At least we did 4 weeks ago when the season started. Maybe they show some spine here. But I think this is kind of a brutal spot to be in for the Colts. And I don't think Matt Ryan's going to have this, hugely successful game where Michael Pittman blows up or, Alec Pierce has his first 100-yard receiving game. I'm not feeling this offense. Maybe they force a turnover. Maybe they can make it a 13-7 win. I don't know. But Ray, in terms of passing success, not really buying it with Matt Ryan. I'll take the under 229.5.
Yeah, I'll foreshadow the game because that was my prop too. I saw 231 was the number I saw, but the same
wouldn't
idea.
make a difference for me.
yeah. That's my prop for the game. You look at Matt Ryan; he's been under that mark in 2 of 3 games. Can they sustain drives without Jonathan Taylor? I don't know. No QB has thrown for 215 yards against Denver this season through 4 games. Now they haven't exactly faced illustrious guys, but still. So I agree with you. I think that, again, that's the one I highlighted for the game itself. So I'm clearly going to be supporting your call here at the start of the show.
Now there is no baseball today, Ray. So your bet du jour, what are you hitting us with? You got a cricket bet, or is there something from the world of NASCAR? Maybe a pickleball bet du jour that you would like?
No, I found a really good set of odds on some own goals. Do they even have those? Bet an own goal?
You can't specifically say who will score the own goal. They might have odds, but that's really random, Ray. That'd be like, betting on a 75-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, or like a no-hitter or something. Yeah.
But it's extremely random for the own goal.
I am doing a football one here. Boo-hoo, I know, no more baseball. But I'm looking over things tonight, and I know that, people are worried about the coverage that Pittman might face tonight. We'll talk to Tyler Beaker about this. But Pittman is the only viable option. This, Matt Ryan can throw for 197 yards, and it could be 112 to Pittman, right? Like he's the guy there. Cortland Sutton is obviously got a nice connection going with Wilson. I think everyone understands that at this point if they weren't at that point before the season began. It's a minus 110 for Sutton and Pittman to go over 132.5. I'm taking it. Despite concerns about either guy going for 275, 300 yards or whatever, those two guys minus 110 at 132.5 yards, I'm taking it.
Okay, I like that one. That is the bet du jour for tonight. A lot more coming on the wager front, not only with Thursday Night Football, but even the playoffs, Week 5 games. Got a lot of that coming your way here on Lunch Money. Dessert, we were unable to get to it yesterday, but we will try to get you that Bar Hoppers bucket list before we get out of here at 3 o'clock. And then we arrive at our drink special, Ray, the virtual drink that you will be enjoying during today's edition of Lunch Money. What do you got, sir?
I got some good stuff, Kyle. Let me get my can. I'm running out of cans here.
You got to start drinking more, Ray.
Yeah, my guy was like, we got to go back to the store. I go, nah, I think we'll probably just run out of cans and let it be. But this is a stout made by Lead Dog, and it's a peanut butter stout.
Yeah. Nah. Ray, things like that where, you know, I'm drinking a beer, but they give you the hint of peanut butter, or maybe it's more than a hint. Maybe it's a punch in the nads of peanut butter.
It's pretty peanut buttery.
I'm not interested in that, Ray. It's like a beer that tastes like pizza. I want pizza. I don't want your beer then. And I don't want your peanut butter. I want a beer. Like I'm not into the flavored stuff here on the beers. Is this heavy? Is this heavy on the peanut butter?
Did it change your opinion when it's 6.6% alcohol?
I'll just drink a stout.
Okay. It's pretty, I would say that, I would say it's heavy peanut butter. Like it's definitely, it's not like it's a peanut butter stout. Like it's legit. If you're into that,
local one here that does like an oatmeal cookie stout.
Right.
It's fine, but it's like, it's not a beer.
Well, see, I thought this was pretty good, right? But it's the only beer I had that night. Like it's not, you're not drinking six of these.
Now, here's the big question, Ray, because as somebody who sends a child to daycare, is this nut-free, that peanut butter? Could my son take this with him to daycare and have it with the other kids in the classroom?
Brewed with real peanut butter. So it's, if you're allergic to peanut butter, you can't. Yeah.
Okay. So he can't take it to daycare. It's not a daycare safe beer.
It is not. Plus there's 6.6% alcohol in it, but yeah, it's pretty good. But again, to your point, I had one. I thought it was cool. I would certainly not drink two in a day. And I don't really have a desire to have another one. So it was good, but it might've been a one-off.
You bring up a good problem I have, Ray, and it's a true problem. I don't want just one beer. And that's a one beer drink.
Yeah, it is.
What do I do next? And then I got to switch to another beer, and the taste profile is thrown off. So, the peanut butter beer, it's not, I'll sip it, I'll have a drink, and then I'm done with it. A drink like a scoop, even taste test kind of thing. For me, Ray, I always like to tie in my drink on Thursdays with the city that is hosting Thursday Night Football. Okay. Now, I think all of us have had a White Russian, right?
Absolutely.
Ray's had a White Russian. I've had a many of us enjoy it. We're all the dude at one point. We all have a White Russian. Ray, in Colorado, they have something called the Colorado Bulldog.
Okay.
Now, in effect, and this, I've never come across this. I don't know if it's any good or not. But Ray, a Colorado Bulldog is in effect just a White Russian, but with the addition of a splash of Coca-Cola. Which I don't know what that would do for the White Russian. Right? It might help it. The White Russian's good as is. But then the Colorado Bulldog, Ray, takes the next step and adds a little fizz to the bottom line. Now, I don't know that I need that. The White Russian, Ray, we're just talking about your peanut butter stout.
Right.
Kind of a 1. The White Russian, if you go past 2, you're asking for trouble.
I've had 2, but
after 2, the cream is just curdling in your belly at that point. But maybe this Coke helps it. I am intrigued by the idea, at least.
I will tell you this. I know for a fact, like when I went to Buena Vista, where they created the Irish coffee in San Francisco, I had 5 Irish coffees, and I was totally fine. So for some reason, maybe the coffee, it didn't bother me at all. But yeah, when I hear White Russian and think having 5 White Russians, that might be a problem. I'm not a big Coke guy. Like I'll have a Cuba Libre, but I would have to try that drink, Kyle. I don't know. I would have to try it to decide.
I've never seen such an addition to the White Russian.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the Coca-Cola helps it. Colorado Bulldog, Somebody in Colorado saying that doesn't exist. I found it online. I swear to you. Somebody even named it like the state drink of Colorado, which that's got to piss off the Coors family. If the Colorado Bulldog is supposedly the state drink. Anyway, that is our virtual drink of the day. That is the lunch menu. We are just getting started on lunch menu. Now, when we come back, we're going to dig deep into this Thursday night game. It's a big one, Indianapolis and Denver. I would argue, Ray, and we'll touch on this, maybe the two most disappointing teams in football. Maybe, the record's okay, not good, okay. And they've both had decent wins, but they're not doing it in a way or in any manner that we thought they would do it. So two disappointing teams with backfields that are in total disarray, veteran quarterbacks that are trying to hold off the cat call, all that stuff. We're going to break it down. Colts and Broncos. We got injury news, more week 5 previews. We get you set for the playoffs, lunch hunch, all the good stuff coming your way on this edition of Lunch Money, including our man Duke. He is in the den. So let's send it to that den. Let's send it over to Duke. See what he's squawking about on a Thursday right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Good afternoon, Bettors. It's your boy Duke. Happy Thursday to you, back and better than ever. Presented to you, as always, by Fantasy Guru. Welcome back to Duke's Den, where I try, emphasis on try, to make you guys money one bet at a time. Look, for a guy who's hyping himself up as this soccer expert and Champions League is my game and I can't be stopped, and I don't know why everyone else can't figure this out. 1-2 again yesterday here on the Bettor Sports Network. Apologies. Now, if you're a member over at fantasyguru.com, we did turn a profit. We had, obviously, PSG to win. Kyle and I had that. They should have won. The XG went in our favor. They ended up tying 1-1. We also had AC Milan and Chelsea, both teams to score. AC Milan did miss a wide open net from inside the 6-yard box. No excuses. They didn't score. We lost that as well. We did hit Man City first half. That was an easy winner as Erling Haaland scored 2 goals in the first half. We also hit an alt line, Man City -4.5 in the bet pack over on Fantasy Guru. We also hit Vlahovic to score for Juventus, and we also hit Juventus at over 2.5 2 scores. We did turn a profit over there, but for you guys, no profit from the soccer angle. Now, college football was a different story. I told you guys you have to be on the right side. That's why it's important to get down early. When you don't necessarily get on the right side, you need to reevaluate whether to bet or not. For me personally, I liked SMU +5.5. We got agreement in the market. It then came down all the way to 3, even some 2.5s. I said, all right, I don't like them that much away to UCF in the bounce house. The total as well, I like the under. That went from 65.5 down to 62.5. My math said we had a better chance winning for 62.5 than taking SMU. Even though we had market agreement on both bets, we win our under. And it was a sweat. Don't get me wrong. We end up with 60 points to 2.5 points shy of our total that we needed. But late in the fourth quarter, my buddy's like, it's a win. It's a win. It's no big deal. Then all of a sudden, SMU scores. And then UCF scores. And then UCF's driving again. I'm like, dude, if you jinx me out of this win, we're going to have issues. But Hour 2, we have Thursday Night Football. Hour 3, we're going to talk about Friday Night Football as well for college. I have 3 bets total coming for you. 4 bets total coming for you. But NFL, we have an odd game tonight. I cannot wait to break it down for you guys in Hour 2. And speaking of NFL, the answer to the age-old question, would you rather be an NFL quarterback or marry a supermodel? I think Tom Brady has chosen football, ladies and gentlemen. The reason for that gaunt face and maybe the inconsistent play here to start the season has now come to light. Both Giselle and Tom Brady hiring divorce lawyers. Sad day for the NFL. But look, we got NHL, NBA coming back here shortly. Our packages over at fantasyguru.com are up. Hour 2, football. Hour 3, football.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Ray, I thought the age-old question was whose career lasts longer, an NFL quarterback or a supermodel? I think it, at this juncture, doesn't an NFL QB's career last longer than a supermodel, I think?
Never would have thought that as a kid, right? But yeah, I think we're I mean, guys are playing to the late 30s, early 40s, not just Tom Brady. So maybe.
Well, and here's the other aspect of the whole Brady thing, right? He can quit being a quarterback, and dare I say, he could probably go into supermodeling, right? I mean, Tom Brady could be a model, right? That guy's going to make, well, he won't make as much. He will make a lot of money as soon as he retires from football.
Well,
Like, he just keeps bringing it in. I mean, he's practically Teflon, unless something comes out,
right?
Here in the divorce proceedings. But Tom Brady's got like millions awaiting him as soon as he hangs up the cleats.
Yeah, and he's really, and Jeff Mans talks about this all the time. He really, I guess, we hit 40, came out of his shell. Like, now he's doing commercials and he's showing his personality. And that Tony Romo, everyone fawned over him. Can you imagine what Tom Brady would get if he wanted to be a host of games on Sundays? Yeah, he's going to make an awful lot of money. You're absolutely correct about that.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Ray. You've got to devote 6 months of your life to that Romo stuff. Whereas if you just go to a Giorgio Armani commercial shoot, it takes like 2 days.
6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. And people just fawn over you and spray you with things, and the coloring is perfect. So the other thing with Duke, kudos to him for always recapping the bets that they made the day before. I appreciate the hell out of that. The fact that, not only does he talk the wagers, but the next day he tells you how he did. So kudos to you, Duke.
Interrupting here, Carl. We just got I don't know if it was from Heather or Drozda, but I forgot that this happened, that Brady actually has a 10-year, $375 million deal with Fox Sports.
Yeah. I wonder if that's in studio, though. They haven't set his role. I mean, here's the thing. Terry Bradshaw, God love him.
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to say it, but I'm just going to stage right kind of thing. That's where Tom Brady belongs. Throw him in a studio, Ray. It's in L.A. He'll be fine. Bradshaw can walk off into the sunset and be replaced by Tom Brady.
I'd much rather go in studio. It's a much easier job, and it's in 100%. One spot.
100%.
Yeah. So if that's the case, Tom's really on easy street then. Yeah.
Yeah, those studio guys, Ray. What is their show?
Gig.
2 hours a week?
That's a
then
gig.
You got to sit there and watch football and comment on it for the entire day.
Right.
Sign me up for that gig. Sign me up. Okay, we welcome you back to Lunch Money. We'll have more of Duke coming up. Let's dig into Thursday night football. And Ray, we have been getting a lot of questions already about this game. And obviously the Taylor situation, Javonte Williams, that throws everything into a tussle. We've been getting questions about Pittman, about Judy, about Sutton. I'm not expecting a particularly explosive game tonight. And the game total is, what's it coming in at? About 42. Not high, not low. I mean, nowadays, hell, we're seeing 39s and 40s. So 42 is nothing alarming. We've been hitting a ton of unders this year in the National Football League. I would probably lean to an under then again tonight. But Ray, despite that, it's like Judy, Sutton, Pittman. I don't know if they're must starts, but you start them. I mean, you've got to be, maybe you're in a league that starts 2 receivers, or maybe you're absolutely loaded, or, it's guys coming back from injury. But to me, Ray, those guys are top 30 receivers almost every week, I would say. So maybe you have 5 top 30 guys. I don't know. And then we've got an issue. But for me, those guys, you start them. You don't really think too much about what's going on tonight. You just throw them into your lineup and roll with it.
I would say that both Sutton and Pittman are wide receiver 2s this week. So to Kyle's point, they're top 20 guys to me. And that's how we have them in the rankings over at fantasyguru.com. Judy is a little different. I think we could talk about Judy being a 3-4 this week. I wouldn't agree with Kyle that he's top 30 this week. Is that what you said, Kyle? Top 30?
Yeah, I think all 3 guys. But how can you bench Judy? He's working with Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. The guy has big play potential. Mm-hmm. I don't really sense seeing a move on from Jerry Judy. You said wide receiver 3. I'd put him in my top 35 this week. I mean, I guess we could dispute top 30, but man, you've got to be sitting on a heaping helping of wide receivers, I think, to say Jerry Judy's not one of my top 3 receivers this week.
He's at 40 right now at fantasyguru.com. And I think that his season has been uneven because he's had injury, right? So you can't take a 4-game average with him because he's dealt with injury. But to your point, big play potential, working with Russell Wilson. These facts are in evidence, right? I think that the workload is a little bit in question with him. I think that there's a lot of wide receivers. And to your main point, there's a lot of wide receivers that I've seen teams where people have got seemingly 5 guys from 18 to 31, right? Like a lot of people have that group on straight lockdown. Do people have better options than Judy? Again, it depends. That's why I said he's a 3-4 for me. Like if I had Judy on my team, he'd probably be starting, but other people might be making a different call this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's only got 11 catches. That's a downer. I mean, in games 3 and 4, or 2 and 3, I should say, he had 3 catches. Those were the games he was limited. But he's got 2 touchdowns, 180 yards. So it's difficult for me to sit that. And again, I guess we were talking about the realization of how short the NFL season is. We were talking about that in the first segment. There's also the realization of this, Ray. Like there's a question now in the chat room. A. Ross says, hey, I can only have one of these guys. And who are the 4 guys? Sutton, Melvin Gordon, Khalil Herbert, Damian Harris. Like, Ray, I hear those names this week, and those guys are all starting. Like, to me, in a normal league, it's like, why would I not be able to start? But here we get 1 of 4 of these guys. Now, I always chuckle at this because you got to realize it's a terrible bet to say one of these guys is any better than the other 4 because they're all good players. They're all startable in a fantasy league. So you're very likely to miss this. I'm very likely to miss this. Mm-hmm. What I settle upon, Ray, is one of these guys is Damian Harris, and he's going up against a Lions defense that can't stop a soul. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's what I'm going with. Give me Damian Harris. Well, the guy scores touchdowns every week, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's interesting because some people did a great job at the draft. Some people did a great job with trade market. And so I see one of 2 types of questions. I see this question, or I see the question where it's like, who do I start this week? And it's like, give me Mark Ingram, J.D. McKissick, or Kenneth Gainwell. It's like, oh, God, right? So it's either that one or, like you're saying, we're benching top 20 running backs. We're benching a top 25 wide receiver. This one is difficult because it's non-PPR. If it was a PPR setup, I'd feel pretty good going Khalil Herbert. But it's not. And to Kyle's main point, when you look at Damian Harris and Alan Lazard, we've talked about so much here on the show. Damian Harris has got 10 touchdowns his last 6 games at home. 10. Okay. He has a rushing score in 18 of them in 19 games. He scores all the time. In a game where, the Patriots are facing a Lions team, to your point, they can't stop the run. The opponent's line the second most points to the running backs in a PPR setup. It's not PPR, but they can't stop the run. 4.8 yards a carry, whatever the hell it is. I'll go Damian Harris too. Okay. But again, like you said, you got to know, and it's frustrating, but you got to know as an owner, you did a great job, but your great job is going to cause some issues from week to week.
Well, we've now discovered it's an 8-team.
Well,
league.
There.
Folks, if you're in an 8-team league, understand you will screw up constantly. There are no correct decisions in an 8-team league. I don't even know if there are correct decisions in a 10-team league. It can really be a mess whenever you start getting into things. For this game tonight, Ray, the big story are the backfields. Mm-hmm. I gave my take earlier. I'm fine with Gordon. I'm digging Hines in a PPR. How do you think this plays out? Like, what are you expecting to see? Do you see pass-heavy offenses? Do you see a 3-way split? Do you see it all going to Melvin Gordon? Like, what's your gut tell you? And again, with the understanding that none of us know. I mean, the other part of this, Ray, these 2 offenses suck. These 2 offenses have not lived up to their preseason billing at all. So now you're talking about 2 offenses that have performed very lackadaisically to start the season. And now you're going to say, we're going to take away their starting running backs. Go figure it out. So I'm putting you in a bad spot, Ray. But it's kind of the total turnoff to me is these are not running backs that are joining an offense that's hitting on all cylinders. These are running backs joining an offense that is coughing up blood going into week 5. Like they're struggling to figure out anything on both sides, the Broncos and the Colts right now.
Yeah. Denver is like 18th in pace of play. So they're not pushing it. Right. And you can't think that given this matchup and given the injury to Javonte Williams, that they're likely to change. So they're not a plodding offense, but they're more plodding than explosive, at least at this point. That doesn't mean they don't have explosive players. They couldn't be big plays, but take what I'm saying here for what I'm saying. The uncertainty. I mean, when you talk about teams, and we're sitting here right now. We legitimately have no idea how either team's going to use their backfield. That's rough. Like, we can assume, I think, pretty clearly that Hines and Gordon are the top two guys. I think that's completely fair. What does that mean? Do they run Hines? Do they dump it off to Hines? Is Hines getting 9 carries and 9 catches? Is he going Austin Eckler this week? With the Broncos, they might want to go Melvin Gordon. What if Melvin Gordon fumbles on his 3rd carry? And he's now got 6 fumbles in 6 games. Does he get benched? Is Lat Murray even going to be active? If that happens, do they just give the ball to Lat Murray and say, read a gap and go? And they just run. So it's really tough to know, because as much as it's a passing game, you have to be able to establish something on the ground consistently unless your passing is elite. Neither offense has had elite passing this year. It's not reasonable to expect it to happen tonight. So I'm expecting not plotting, but a moderately paced game. I'm not expecting it up and down. I'm not expecting a lot of points. I'm not expecting a lot of fireworks. But who knows? Sometimes those games are the ones that shoot out.
I would be willing, Ray, to bank on more work for Philip Lindsay than Deontay Jackson, than Mike Boone, and over Latavius Murray. I bet Lindsay is the guy who gets, like, if again, Hines and Gordon, fine. That 3rd guy, Ray, I'd put my money on Lindsay. I think, he's been on the practice squad, so he's in quote unquote game shape. He's obviously been there, done that. There's obviously the whole storyline. He had good years with Denver. I mean, it's not too long ago that Philip Lindsay was like an every week starter in fantasy football. He would be, Ray, we're talking about DFS, he would be my dart throw tonight. Of all these dart throws we got, I'd lean towards Lindsay, who was just activated from the practice squad and is going to be in there tonight for the Colts.
I don't think that Lindsay is the guy that ran for 1,000 yards his first 2 seasons anymore. I don't. And I also know that he shouldn't be looked at as someone who's going to catch passes. Now, they've got Hines there for that anyway, but I can't dispute what you're saying. I can't agree with what you're saying, because I don't know. And that's to be truthful, is he a dart throw? He could absolutely get 15 carries and 75 yards and a touchdown. It could happen, but the offense has been uneven. Jonathan Taylor was struggling to hit those numbers. Being a practice squad guy, is that just because he can't play special teams, or are they seeing nothing out there? It's just tough. You can't, like, you're playing the DFS game. Like, are you doing this? Like,
in the DFS game, Ray, you usually have to have a punt.
Right.
I don't know. I can't imagine Lindsay is anything over like a few $100, depending on your site. These 4 running backs behind Hines and Gordon, they're all punts. He'd be my punt. He'd be the guy that I would make the punt on, would be Lindsay. Would you go a different direction? Are you feeling Mike Boone, say, over Philip Lindsay?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if Latavius Murray is going to be on the field, so I can't go in that direction. I'm uncertain. I could buy an argument for Lindsay to be the lead ball carrier in terms of carries for the Colts. I can buy that argument. I would go Mike Boone. I still would go Mike Boone, because I think Mike Boone catches some passes. I am, as you can tell, I'm very worried about ball security issues with Melvin Gordon. We know that even when Javonte Williams was out there, we saw a ton of Gordon. So it's very reasonable to think everyone just steps up a spot in the pecking order. Gordon gets the Williams role. And this is raw, right? This is not exact. Boone gets the Gordon role, meaning that Boone touches it 10 times this week. So I would go with Boone over Lindsay.
I was talking about these offenses, Ray. I saw numbers, and these are just like wild to look at. Indianapolis first. Here's what Indianapolis has done in the first half this year. They have 22 possessions. These are just first and second quarter numbers. 22 possessions. They have 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals. So what have they done in the other 17 possessions? 10 punts, 3 picks, 2 fumbles, and 2 turnovers on down. Matt Ryan, Ray, 5 picks, 9 fumbles. Now, he's not lost all 9 of those fumbles. But like, Ray, it's wild to me. And again, we haven't even gotten to the point that, hey, Jonathan Taylor's not doing his thing. The offensive line sucks. Pittman's not doing really what people expected from him. Like, the whole offense is in disarray. Denver has an NFL worst 37 penalties this year, and 15 of them have occurred when the clock isn't even running. Pre-snap penalties.
Horrible.
Like these are two. I'm stunned, Ray. I thought Indy would be fine this year. I didn't look at this team and say, "Oh man, Indianapolis, how are they going to move the football?" Oh, Indianapolis are going to be regretting Matt Ryan come week 8. Never thought that. With Denver, Ray, honestly, I was one of the people saying this offense is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
This offense is going to be top 5. They're nowhere near it, and we're not finished, and I think it will get better. It's got to get better for Denver. But right now, you take away their lead running backs, and all of a sudden, that under tonight looks really tasty. These offenses just have not found their stride. Maybe it's going to take like a nervous energy or nervous set of play calls because, oh my God, what do? We don't have Williams. Well, let's try something we've never done before. And maybe they'll do that and have some success tonight. But it's alarming how weak these offenses have been to start the season.
Yeah, given expectations, I think industry-wide or NFL-wide, not just you, Kyle, everyone expected the Denver Broncos offense to be good. Everyone expected the Colts to improve at least slightly from last year with the addition of Matt Ryan. No, I mean, these are, and I said this earlier, like, I mean, the Colts if the Colts lose this game, people are getting fired. Like, Frank Reich could be fired, like legitimately.
Yeah, if they really get beat like 30-7.
Yeah.
You're right, Ray. I think Frank Reich could be canned. You're totally right.
Out, and no one would have predicted that. I think over at fantasygear.com, I think I predicted the Colts to be in the AFC Championship game. I even predicted them to win the AFC. Like, this is crazy. The Hackett thing, they've already hired a coach admitting that their head coach doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, so these two offenses, it's really a lot of this is just on the players, it seems. The Colts got to make plays. The Broncos got to make plays. We'll see if they can, but neither offense has lived up to expectations by miles. They've both been two of the most disappointing groups in football.
Yeah, and again, that game total 42. Denver favored by 3.5. Ray, your favorite prop, again, you're taking the under on Matt Ryan, 231 for the passing.
Yeah, I saw 231. I think you saw 229. But yeah, that's what I would be doing here. Again, to reiterate, 2 of the last 3 games, he's been under that mark. No passer has done that this season against the Broncos. No passers hit 215 yards against the Broncos. I'm taking the under as well.
I saw a spread, Melvin Gordon versus Naheem Hines, rushing yardage only. Just rushing yardage. Spread was 21.5 in favor of Gordon. I'll take those odds. It's minus 115. And I think Hines will be fine. I think it's going to be receptions, though, not so much rushing. So getting 21.5 yards, Gordon, I think Gordon can be kind of in that 50 to 60 range at least. He could have the big game, but I think 50 to 60 is kind of fair for Melvin Gordon. Honestly, I don't know if 35 or so is even fair for Naheem Hines. So that's going to be the prop bet I'm most interested in. My player to watch is Gordon. My player to fade is Ryan. So I'm kind of in on Melvin Gordon tonight, Ray. I think he'll hold on to the football, keep the job, have a good game. Matt Ryan, 0. I don't think tonight's the start of a turnaround. Not feeling that. Who's your guy to watch and your guy to fade?
My guy to watch is the deployment. It's a group. My deployment of the Colts tight ends. What is going on here? We've joked around about Mo Alley Cox here on the show. I've had Mo Alley Cox on my Dynasty League team on the bench because I have George Kittle. So I'm right there with people struggling with, oh my God, I got this guy. He's not doing anything. That's my Dynasty League. I don't know if I said that. But what are they doing here? I mean, you look at this group. It's 10 targets for Cox, 15 for Granson, 4 for Woods. I guess Woods is out of the mix. He had that 2 touchdown. I guess he's out. I guess it's really Granson or Cox. Are any of these guys going to emerge? I really want to see that because this is, again, another one of those scenarios like we have with Seattle, where it's like, as a group, we're getting some good stuff here, but we need it to be one guy. We can't randomly guess which tight end each week is going to hit. So I'm going to watch.
I bet, Ray, they employ all 3 tonight. I mean, they are just searching for any kind of answers offensively.
Yeah.
I
think help the run game too.
Yeah, on the other side, Ray, we should mention, I know you brought up Shaquille Leonard yesterday, not going to be playing. He's probably their top linebacker. He is also usually the guy that covers the opposing tight end. And, reading some things out of Indianapolis, the 3 healthy linebackers they have are not really guys who do much coverage. They're kind of your traditional linebackers who go and get the football. So that could be one edge for Denver tonight is taking advantage of the tight end spot against the Colts.
It could be, but unfortunately, that's my position to fade because I don't know what they're doing there either. You're right. But the problem is, how do we capitalize on that? Albert O had 1 catch or 1 target last week. Like, Eric Saubert is he the lead? Like, what is going? So the offense is uneven. The matchup says let's attack it. I don't know if this coaching staff, we give the benefit of the doubt that they're going to do that. So I'm fading the group because, again, I don't know if it's Albert O, if it's Saubert. I don't know what they're doing out there.
Watchability for tonight. It's kind of crazy, Ray. We're negative on the offenses. The backfields are a mess. Both teams are struggling. I still gave it a 4. There's still talent. You still have Ryan. You still have Wilson. You have Pittman. You have both receivers for Denver. I'm always a sucker for a game at the old Mile High. I don't even know. Something at Mile High Stadium is what they call it now. But I'm giving it a 4 tonight on Thursday night.
I gave it a 3. I could have probably bumped it higher, but I'm just so disappointed in both these offenses. Maybe that's taking away some of the potential excitement in the matchup.
Couple of quick questions in the chat room. Lefty says, half-point PPR, you like Mike Boone or Jarvis Landry?
Neither.
I like Landry.
Boone.
Okay. He's all in on Mr.
We don't even know who the quarterback is going to be for the Saints.
I don't even know who the running back's going to be for Denver.
too.
And then the other one, Hurdle, says, do you like Mo Alley Cox? I always love Mo Alley.
Of course.
Are the Denver defense in the showdown slate, and that's for DFS, 1-game showdown slate. I'll actually go with the Denver defense here, Ray, just because Indianapolis is totally paper thin up front, and they shouldn't be. We talked about it yesterday. They've spent money on the offensive line, but they're not getting production. Ryan looks shook. Give me the Denver defense tonight.
Yeah, ditto. For the reasons you listed, I'd also go with the defense there.
Okay, there you go. We'll take some more questions in that chat room. Good to hear from all you guys checking in there. When we return on Lunch Money, we've got injury news. Practices are taking place. Reports are coming out. The latest on DNPs, the latest on limiteds. We've got some guys to follow. Alvin Kamara, Amon-Ra St. Brown, probably the QB situation. Daniel Jones, is he going to be in? Tom Brady missed practice yesterday. Rashad Penny missed practice yesterday. We'll give you the latest on all those and more when we return on Lunch Money right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Corey, Nando, and friends, presented by Mayo Media on Bettor Sports Network.
I'm convinced that Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Babe Ruth is not real. No, it's not. Babe Ruth is not real. We've been hoodwinked. We've been bamboozled. We've been led astray. We've been run amok. Babe Ruth, I don't know the rest. Babe Ruth is a fictional character. I'm dead serious. Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Y'all are never going to get me to believe that Babe Ruth is real. Babe Ruth is like a baseball Santa Claus. I'm not buying it. After I saw those highlights last night of Babe Ruth, I'm like, there's no way you can tell me that Babe Ruth is a real person. Who do you know? There is nobody under the sound of my voice that has ever seen Babe Ruth play. I asked my pops, you ever seen Babe Ruth play? He's like, no. Nobody's ever seen Babe Ruth play.
I mean, come on.
I'm telling you, Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Even Babe Ruth baseball cards, it looked like it's drawn. Like, Babe Ruth is not real. Y'all trying to pull a fast one. Listen, I don't know who made this up. Maybe it was Phil Rizzuto. Maybe it's the Lenny Melnick. But Babe Ruth is not a real person. There's no way. Everything about Babe Ruth is sketchy. If you didn't go to the games, how do you know that it really happened? Or I listened on the radio. You listen to Ovaltine on the radio. That old school radio was all fiction. Everything on old school radio was fake. But you think Babe Ruth is real.
Look, he lived until 1948. So if you find someone who's like 85 years old, they might have remembered him when he was little, when they were a little teenager.
Babe Ruth was made up by baseball purists. I am certain.
You do that thing where you pause the Babe Ruth video and you zoom in and you zoom in and you zoom in. And you see like some artist autograph like right here.
Yeah,
like, some digital mark right here. Yeah.
Somebody needs to investigate this and see if Babe Ruth is a real person. I'm pretty sure Babe Ruth is a fictional character created to make people think that like there was this great jolly old baseball player that drank beers and ate hot dogs and hit 60 home runs. Like the home run record before Babe Ruth was like 14. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and
but
now
he figured it out. Like who figured out the dunk, right? Like he's just like,
that's like Dr. J or something, right? Then Dr. J, probably was before Dr. J. but Dr. J made the dunk famous. Babe Ruth made the home run famous, or maybe that was a way to get people to like, we're going to make baseball America's pastime. But in order to do so, we need somebody who we can make the face of the sport. And they didn't have no face of the sport. So they're like, okay, let's make him a fictional guy that played for the Red Sox and was traded to the Yankees for like tickets to tickets to cats. You know what I'm saying? Like the Red Sox get a Yankees.
You tried to say Les
There's
Miserables.
is there any footage of Babe Ruth in the Red Sox uniform? None. I'm telling you, Babe Ruth is a fictional character.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
It is lunch money on a Thursday. We're talking football, a little bit of baseball coming up as we get you set for the playoffs. Ray and Kyle hanging out with you. Ray, I did see proof positive again. It's never Aaron Rodgers' fault. Did you see that he is now claiming if he returns next year? Now, remember, I think he's in year one of a 4-year deal.
He is.
Didn't he just sign it like 3 months ago?
$150 million. Yeah, just signed
A lot of money. He is now saying, Ray, I guess after getting a couple run-throughs with his new receivers, he's saying it is all on the receiver's shoulders, the current Packer receivers, as to whether or not he's going to return next year. So do not blame Aaron Rodgers if he chooses to leave and retire. Ray, it'll be Christian Watson's fault that he didn't improve enough. He didn't reach the peaks that Aaron Rodgers needs in order to stick around and pocket an extra $50 million next year.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I can't wait for this guy to go away.
No, he's entertaining, Ray.
He is a buffoon.
They don't make them like they used to, Ray. We need to keep guys like this. I mean, what's that drug he's been telling everybody about? I don't even know.
Is it ayahuasca? What's he doing? I don't know.
Yeah, ayahuasca. I'm all for that stuff, man.
I mean, you sign a 4-year, $150 million extension because you got to get yours, right? Because otherwise you're not going to play football. And now you're saying, well, it's now on these guys. Like, can you imagine the gall of that? You're a Hall of Fame quarterback. You're considered by many to be one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks who's ever lived. And you're telling the media, the only way I continue my career is if this 23-year-old kid does a great job.
Yeah, he's like, look around, man. Look what I'm dealing with here. Why would you stick around?
He's such
what
an
he's
asshole.
done, Ray, is I don't
asshole.
even know the breakdown on this contract, but I guarantee a lot of it's like signing bonus money, guaranteed money. He probably knew full and well that he wouldn't stick around 4 years. He knew that immediately, and he'll still get this money. He'll still pocket this money.
But think about it. I'm a Hall of Fame quarterback, and you 22-year-old kid, my career, this franchise's success moving to the future is on you. There's no pressure with it. Good job, Aaron. There's no pressure on it. It's not like you haven't been saying forever, for months and months and months, our wide receivers got to come through. Let's now put your future on them. He's such an asshat. God, it's so bad.
Well, this week, Ray, you won't have to worry about him screwing up your country because he's over in London. He's screwing around with their country. Injury reports. Let's see. What do we got here? Alvin Kamara. I hesitate to say this, Ray, but it looks like he's okay. He's practicing.
Seems that way.
Now, he practiced last week, and then, we know how that ended up. Let's see. Other names. Tom Brady set down yesterday, didn't practice. Ray, I look at this and say he's playing. I mean, we'd have to go today with a DMP, probably Friday, and then get further reporting. I see him being out there and be stunned. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we're probably not going to have DeAndre Swift. That's almost certain. St. Brown is still looking iffy for the Lions trip to New England, isn't he?
Yeah, so what we got here is TJ Hawkins got the hip issue. He was back at practice. Josh Reynolds with the ankle. He was back at practice. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's got the ankle issue, was not at practice. So that's 2 straight misses for him after last week. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is reporting that DeAndre Swift is likely to be out, to your point there. So the Lions could again be without St. Brown and Swift. Kyle Pitts has got that hamstring issue. 2nd day in a row he wasn't seen for the open part of practice. So now we got to start getting nervous. Maybe that hamstring issue is something. So we got to start thinking about that. Isaiah McKenzie returned to practice wearing a non-contact jersey. I know a lot of people getting excited about Shakir, but remember, Shakir's role is directly tied to McKenzie and his ability to play through the concussion. We'll see whether that happens or not. Chris Godwin practiced today with his knee issue. Looks like he'll play. Tom Brady was back at practice today.
Oh, okay.
So there's some positivity there. And then 2 players with the Commanders, or the Potatoes, as we like to call them. Johan Dotson didn't practice. We're not anticipating he plays this week. But Curtis Samuel still out with an illness. Second straight day that Curtis Samuel's missed practice with an illness.
Yeah, anybody else you can get away with the illness. Curtis Samuel, when you know his history, you probably can't. Michael Thomas is still a question mark. Rashad Penny, I know, didn't practice yesterday. It's going to be a late practice report because Seattle's out west. Keenan Allen's still not in the clear, Ray.
Yeah.
So, we start talking about these receivers like St. Brown and Michael Thomas and, Keenan Allen and on and on and on. Like, that's another thing with the Judy situation that we were dealing with in the previous segment. It's like some people are now going to be forced to maybe make him their third receiver. And I don't know, Ray. I mean, when you're dealing with, like, I look at St. Brown, Allen, and Thomas, and to me, they're probably more on the out than the in right now. And I'm just guessing there. I don't have any inside information, but just seeing how this is going, I'm kind of not planning for them. Rashad Bateman is another name we should throw out there. He's dealing with a foot injury. I know we got a question in the chat room on Renfro. He was back at practice yesterday. The question there, though, Ray, is like, man, is Hunter Renfro, even in a PPR setup, do you immediately make that move? And I don't know if the answer is yes there with Hunter Renfro.
Yeah. By the way, Jalen Waddle with that groin issue, he's back at practice today too. Positive for him. Renfro, I mean, Renfro, this is the scenario we're in. We've got Josh Jacobs getting 20 touches. We've got 10 targets going to Adams. We've got 8 targets going to Waller. We've got 6 targets going to Matt Collins. And this is the problem, where's the upside with Renfro? Renfro's ability to match the numbers of last season is 100% dependent upon the lack of help from his teammates. So I think he was overdrafted because Hunter Renfro is basically a 5-catch, 60-yard guy. And could he return to action and do that? Sure. Is he someone that's going to get in the end zone as frequently as last year or have those big numbers? It's just there's too many mouths to feed there. So I would agree with you that trusting him his first week back, if you're going to say trusting him, it's tough to do. It is against Kansas City, so they're figured to be a lot of points. The Raiders are going to have to probably push things. So he's not a horrible play this week, but he's not someone I'd be excited about.
That'll be the final game of week number 5. That's the Monday nighter there from Arrowhead as the Chiefs host the Raiders. Let us get into breaking down a few more of these week 5 games. We talked earlier about the Colts for their trip to Denver. Let's talk about that London game, Ray, the Giants and the Packers. And again, we actually have 2 teams over 500 that are playing in London, which is hugely rare. In fact, it's never happened, amazingly. Green Bay is another big favorite. Now, last week they were favored by 9. They barely survived against New England. For this game, they are favored by 8.5. Still another low game total. We're looking at 41 points here. Ray, does Green Bay deserve this much of a favored status? Like, that's another big number. We maybe get one number a week that tops the 8 mark. And for 2 straight weeks now, it's been Green Bay. And even Aaron Rodgers will admit it, Ray. He said after the win against New England, he's like, we really have no business winning these games. We are not playing good football. We're 3-1, but we're playing like a 1-3 team. And yet here they are back-to-back weeks favored by well over a touchdown for their games.
Hey, man, it's Aaron Rodgers, baby. Let's go. It's kind of like the Patrick Mahomes thing you've talked about a lot with the Chiefs, right? How they're always favored and they struggle to cover and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the Packers are objectively speaking a better team. Okay, that's true. Does that mean that they should be heavily favored while they're at home? We know that Tyrod Taylor was down with the concussion. He's uncertain to play this week. We know that Daniel Jones got the ankle issue. Looks like he's going to have to give it a go regardless, right? So where is he at? That's a big thing. When you look at an opponent playing on the road in Lambeau and you don't know exactly how the quarterback position is going to play out, that doesn't even talk about the disasters their receiving core is and everything like that. I mean, I think it's easy to look at the Giants and say, yeah, they could score 21 points. It's also easy to look at them and say they could score 6, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that probably goes a ways towards speaking why the Packers are so heavily favored.
Just so we're all on the same page, it's another early kickoff on Sunday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. So, you should be able to plan for this, folks. Set your alarm clock, wake up, check the line, go back to bed. It's just that easy. Takes 4 minutes. Okay. Should be that easy. But early game on Sunday. Prop-wise, Ray, I didn't see a whole lot here, but one thing I did see was Saquon Barkley, who I've been in on all season, but under 110.5 total yards, minus 110. I'm taking the under here because now is maybe that point where after 4 weeks, some of this work can catch up to you. After traveling from New York to London, probably doing some media things since you're in a new country and the NFL is promoting things. Saquon Barkley's about the only guy that can promote anything from the Giants. You know, he's the only guy people would even remotely care about on this team. Plays in New York, that's to Londoners. Oh, New York, that's a big team. Well, who's the big guy? So, Ray, there's a lot asked of Saquon Barkley this week. There is a ton asked on this team. I'm just betting on it maybe catching up to him a bit this week. And it's like, man, you've been killing it for 4 weeks. Now you've got this travel. Matchup isn't all that good. I could see the Packers selling out to stop the run here. I mean, we know Daniel Jones is not healthy. Tyrod Taylor's probably not under center. Yet again, it's another week where like all roads lead to Saquon Barkley. Like every defense should know this. Every coaching staff should know this. So I'll take the under and I'll bet on the Packers focus being so, laser lined up on Barkley that he's not going to get the usual overall numbers that he's gotten in the previous weeks.
Yeah, I actually looked at that number too and kind of thought along similar lines. And with the uncertain, like I said this, with the uncertainty at the quarterback position this week for the Giants, not to mention the poor play really anyway, that offense could go really bad this week. So I don't mind that call you're making there with Barkley at all.
What's your top prop for the Giants and Packers?
You look at the matchup and the Giants, theoretically the Giants score out well against the wide receiver, right? If you look at points allowed and that kind of a thing. They face Tennessee. They don't have anything. They face Carolina. Their quarterback is awful. So you kind of throw those 2 games out, which are a large portion of why they grade out so well. Because
don't forget the Bears game, Ray. They played the Bears.
They played the Bears, and Mooney still went for 94 yards, right? Yeah, and that CeeDee Lamb had 87 yards and a touchdown. Noah Brown had. So my point is that they rank really strongly if you look at points allowed, but 3 of the 4 games, cakewalk city. So I'm going Allen Lazard is a minus 125 to go over 45.5 yards. I know I have talked all about touchdown. Well, last week he had 116 yards. And again, this is why you play Allen Lazard every week, folks. I mean, This is how it is. But he's got 14 targets the last 2 weeks. He's caught 10 passes the last 2 weeks. Again, I think the Giants are artificially boosted here because of their opponents. I'm going, again, I think it's pretty good. Minus 125 over 45.5 yards for Lazard.
Yeah, I love the call. Very good call on that prop. I'm right there with you. My player to watch is Barkley. Again, if there's anything that the Giants can do of the positive nature, it's Saquon Barkley. So, like, he's not going, it's over. And this game could get away from him quickly. Now, I say that, and I kind of felt the same way last week when the Packers were up against the Patriots. It didn't work out that way. Hell, the Patriots even lost their quarterback, and they still hung with the Packers. Barkley's the end-all, be-all for this offense. Make no 2 doubts about it. He is what matters. He is all that matters. So he's the guy to watch. My fade is Daniel Jones, Ray. He hasn't been very good this year. He's hurt. Last week was pretty ugly. I don't see it turning around. It's just an easy fade. It's a bad spot for him. And if he doesn't have a wheel, that's 100%. It sounds like he doesn't. The ankle sounds pretty beat up. I think in a lot of circumstances, Ray, if Taylor were healthy, he'd be your quarterback on Sunday. But he isn't, so they're going to force Jones out there. But my player to watch is Barkley. The fade is going to be Daniel Jones.
Yeah, my player to watch is Kadarius Toney because let's go.
Because you get to actually watch him. We might get to see him.
We might get to see him. Let's go. I mean, Richie James is injured. Tony's injured. Wendell Robinson's injured. Kenny Galladay's injured. Darius Slayton doesn't play. Sterling Shepard. They don't have anybody. They got nobody. And he's got talent. We know he's got talent. I don't know what's going on away from the field. I know there's been all kinds of problems. Okay, there's an opportunity here. I know that. So I want to see if he's healthy enough to play, how often he's on the field. But they desperately need something in the receiving game. I want to see what he does. And really, my player to fade.
Real
Yeah, go ahead.
quickly, I was just thinking, right? We heard Corey Parsons in the break saying that Babe Ruth is like a creation, a Santa Claus, a figment of our imagination.
Right.
Maybe Kadarius Toney is the NFL version of that. He
Bigfoot.
doesn't really exist. We just
Yeah.
keep hearing about it.
We have some quick glimpses of some greatness, but overall, my God, where's he go? And my player to fade is everyone on the Giants other than Saquon Barkley. I'm the whole team. As much as I want to watch Tony, I can't play Tony. It's not.
Yeah.
So you're fading this entire. I'm being serious. You fade the entire team. You don't start any single Giant this week in any format other than Saquon Barkley, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I like the Packers don't even need to play well to cover that 8.5. They really don't. They can just play a ho-hum game and walk away with a 17-point win. Kind of feel that way. Now, Ray, this is a London game. I hope your watchability is a 1.
Well, my watchability will be 0 because I won't be up when it starts. No, I'll be up when it starts this week. I gave it a 1.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to go 0 and besmirch the value of what we do here. But yeah, a London game early in the morning, crap ass team at least on one side, a player that I detest as much as almost any in football on the other side leading things. I'm giving it a 1.
Okay, I went with a 2, which signifies the time zone difference between myself and Ray. 8:30 for me on Sunday, 6:30 on him. So I'm able to watch this one, so I'll give it a 2. Let's go to Chicago, Minnesota. That is our traditional 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. Vikings are favored by a touchdown here, over under 44. Minnesota minus 320 on the money line. Bears are plus 265. My favorite prop here, Ray, this is going to shock you. Chicago over 1.5 touchdowns. It's plus 130. Now, I know this offense sucks. I get it. But I'm not particularly impressed by the Vikings defense. And getting plus 130 for a measly 2 touchdowns, even if their defense scores a touchdown, it counts for me. I'll take it. Maybe this will be the breakout performance, Ray, where the Bears get like 380 total yards. Like just a huge breakout performance. Give me the touchdown and a half. Maybe Fields breaks off a long run. Eventually, they can't be this bad, this awful, this clueless. They got to figure it out. So give me a bet on the Bears, which probably means I'm the sucker if I'm betting on the Bears to score the football.
I'm taking my favorite prop. Vikings win by 7 minus 115. Vikings got to get right. They've struggled. The Bears are the Bears. They could score 2 touchdowns and let's have a parade. Like I
hate the Vikings against the spread though, Ray, because it's a team that wins.
Yeah,
well, it's never easy. It always seems last ditch effort like with Cousins at the helm. You're right. It shouldn't be against Chicago, but the Vikings are just kind of a pain to predict and any of that stuff. I've got Cousins as my guy to watch. He's probably due for a big game. Was pretty quiet last week, so maybe he gets rolling this week. Mm-hmm. My fade is Mooney. I said it on Monday, Ray. I really don't care that you had any receiving yardage. Like, move on. Get out of here. Darnell Mooney, maybe he sticks around on the fantasy roster after 94 yards a week ago, but that was still a bad offense. Still an offense that doesn't want to throw much. So he's an easy fade for me.
My player to fade is Darnell Mooney.
He's going to be like the perpetual fade for the next 3 months.
I really wanted to hit on this because I mentioned this in my weekly matchup piece, which goes up every Thursday morning over at fantasyguru.com. People can use the discount Bettor, Bettor. I mentioned that because in the article, I point out that, look, if you look at last year, and it's last year, it's different, coaching staff, everything. The offense isn't the same. Darnell Mooney last year in 2 games against the Vikings had 17 catches for 189 yards. Like, he lit them up. So it's, but again, I'm still fading him because the offense, because of where they're at right now. He had a decent game last week. He had the 94 yards, still only had 4 catches. He should be more of a thing. Maybe last week was the start of it, but I can't feel confident that that's the case.
Yeah, I don't really care about your history last year with Darnell. It's worth throwing out, but it's not changing the opinion. Watchability, Ray, unfortunately, it's another 2. I own Cousins in a lot of spots. Maybe that's why he's my player to watch, but there's not much to be entranced by with the Vikings and the Bears for this one on Sunday.
Yeah, I gave it a 1. I'm not. I mean,
Skip.
There's one. Let's move on. Like one. Oh, by the way, Kadarius Toney had that hamstring issue. He didn't practice today, so
Oh gosh.
he still might be a Bigfoot. We don't know.
Yeah. This guy, right? It's just brutal. Like the team is desperate for him.
Yep.
This is still a thing. How long has this hamstring been around? 4 or 5 weeks?
I don't know. I mean, this goes.
I
back
seem
to
to
last
recall
year.
when it happened. And when it happened, Ray, wasn't it like a minor issue? And here we are in the middle of October, still waiting to see this.
And this could be completely unfair, right? But don't you just get the sense he doesn't really want to play? I mean, it's been 2 years of this. Like, and we know in the offseason, the coach, Brian DeBall, the coaching staff weren't happy with him. And then there were the rumors about the trade. Like, he's a younger version of Michael Thomas. At least it took Michael Thomas 7 years into his career to become this. Dude was this from day one. It's terrible.
Yeah, he seems to be taking his cues from his teammate Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man.
It's like we're gonna sabotage this thing from the inside. That's how we're gonna ruin the Giants. Man, oh man, a DNP for Kadarius Toney. Maybe he was sightseeing, went to Big Ben, Parliament. Who knows what he's doing out there in London? Okay, break for us and a break from the football. Do want to talk a little baseball. Tomorrow the playoffs begin. We will take a look at the 4 series coming your way. We've got a lunch hunch on the flip side. Still to come, Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com will join us with his thoughts on the Colts and the Broncos. We got more week 5 previews, so a lot coming your way. Only about halfway through. We're taking you up until 3 o'clock right here on Lunch Money. Up first, let's send you over to Duke. He is in the den. Take it away, Duke.
Good afternoon, bettors. It's your boy Duke, back and better than ever, presented to you, as always, by fantasyguru.com, where you can find all of your daily fantasy, season-long, and sports betting needs. Welcome back to Duke's Den, where I try to make you money one bet at a time. 2-2 yesterday. No money won, just losing the juice there. We do go 1-2 on our soccer bets. We did hit our college football bet to stay hot there. That was under 62.5 in the UCF SMU game, continuing our hot run for college football. But it's Thursday. That means we have some NFL action tonight, some prime video NFL football. Colts head to Denver to take on the Broncos, and even that mile-high air can't help the noodle arm that is Matt Ryan. But who's the bigger issue for their team right now? Matt Ryan with the Colts, Russell Wilson with the Broncos. We were told all offseason Russ can cook. Signs the big deal from Denver, making him an even richer man. Well, how about like some ramen noodles and mashed potatoes? That's what he's cooking up right now. It's not exactly a Michelin star caliber meal. Just 80 of 131 attempts. That's 61% completion percentage. If you're wondering, that is his lowest completion percentage in his 11-year NFL career. Now, look, he is a victim of the second most drops in the NFL with 12. That accounts for about a quarter or 25% of his incompletions. But the issue here is Russell Wilson is not pushing the ball down the field. We remember all these times when he's scrambling out of the pocket, finding DK Metcalf down deep. None of that going on in Denver right now. Less than half of his completions have traveled 10 yards or more, and just 2 over 30 yards. So I don't know if it's the pocket issues, not having enough time, or just a lack of communication and connection with the wide receivers, but Russ needs to get the ball down the damn field. Now, on the other side, Jonathan Taylor is confirmed out for the Colts. Shaq Leonard, maybe even a bigger miss for this Colts defense here. Matt Ryan has 8 turnovers in 4 games. He's been sacked 15 times. Naheem Hines stinks as a lead back, more of a change of pace guy. So what would you make the total on this game? Where are these points coming from? Would you make it 39, 40? That's about what I made it. Well, we're sitting at 42 right now on the market. That's not a lot of points in an NFL game, but these are two teams that are struggling to score. So I pooped in the soup yesterday. I'm doing it again today. Taking another under. Thursday Night Football unders, baby. Under 42 for this game. And I'm also going to parlay the Broncos, who eventually have to turn this around, right? Like Russell Wilson is a star quarterback. They have to get it done. Shaq Leonard's out. Let's take the Broncos. We'll parlay them with the Packers on Sunday morning for our Thursday plus England special. That's even money. So under 42 tonight, and then even money, Packers and Broncos parlay. There you go. Those are my 2 bets that I'm going to give you this hour. Next hour, we're back to play NFL prop Mad Lib with my guy Tyler Beaker and some college football bets. Stay tuned. Here's Kyle and Ray. Adios.
Welcome you back in. Kyle and Ray, Lunch Money with you on a Thursday. Thanks to Duke again for some more bets. Another guy taking the under on Thursday. Ray, I feel like that's the dummy call now. Everybody just takes the under on a Thursday. We don't have to worry about anything else. Just take the under.
Again, I'm not surprised by that, right? This is a game. These guys just killed themselves 3 days ago. Right? It's the way of the world. That's how the NFL
that's
works.
the way of the world. Got to make your money, Ray. Got to make your money from those guys at Amazon. Well, coming back there, you heard the Julio Rodriguez home run. He was a hero in his rookie season for Major League Baseball. Is he going to be a hero in the postseason tomorrow? The Mariners, who have broken the longest postseason drought in baseball, will end that drought. They're done with it. They're going to be in Toronto opening up their series. We will take a look at these playoff series from kind of a wagering perspective, maybe some questions that have to be answered. Before that, though, Ray, let's get our lunch hunch. So what do we got? What are you feeling on this Thursday?
My lunch hunch today is it's baseball, actually, and it's a long-term play since you did a little bit of this yourself yesterday. I figured, what the hell? I'm just going to call the World Series combatants.
Okay.
Just going to do it. It's a plus 1,200 for the Dodgers to beat the Astros in the World Series. So that's how it's going to be. It's going to be Dodgers-Astros in the final series of the season. The Dodgers are going to win that one, plus 1,200. Make your bets now.
I believe, Ray, I might have done a very similar bet like 2 weeks ago on like a World Series matchup, but it was like plus 1,500 right for when I went. And I think it might have included the Dodgers and Astros. So, hey, I appreciate you following my lead.
I'm there. Better late than never.
I've got baseball, but it is much more immediate if people are looking to make some cash. First game of the postseason tomorrow, 12:07 Eastern. That's 9:07 Ray Flowers time. We got Tampa Bay and Cleveland. No surprise that they get like the midday afternoon who's watching slot on Friday. These two teams get it. Okay, Ray, here's my bet.
Okay.
You got Shane McClanahan going for the Rays. You got Shane Bieber going for the Guardians. I'm going to ignore 162 games of what went down this year. Like, I still don't know how the Guardians are here, Ray. Like, it doesn't compute. They are a real outlier compared to like everybody else in baseball. They're like dink and dunk is kind of what they do offensively.
Yep.
They don't strike out. They don't hit home runs. They've done really well. They've beaten all the odds. Yada, 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 all the odds. Right, tomorrow they don't beat the odds. They have run into their equal.
Okay.
Because Tampa Bay's been doing this for years now.
Very fair.
Dink and dunk. Who the hell's pitching? I don't know. How is this team winning? They're not even paying players. Like Cleveland and Tampa are like mirror images of each other right now. But I think Tampa has the better overall roster, pitching and hitting. Give me the Rays to take game one. Game one plus 105. They're actually underdogs here, Ray. Is by. Like, I know Shane Bieber's on the hill, but Bieber hasn't been unhittable by any stretch. McClanahan's just as good, if not better. So I get plus 105 here on the Rays to win game one tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right. It's really interesting to hear that, how it lined up. Two teams no one really cares about widespread, right? They don't have a big Q factor. The two teams with similar-ish paths to getting here. It's a nice little battle that way. Two smaller market teams, the style of game they play. So if you're a baseball fan, it seems like a pretty good thing to watch, and I can totally dig what you're putting down there.
Well, until 2 o'clock rolls around and the Cardinals Phillies comes on, and then everyone will leave the Guardians.
Right, that's fair too.
Right. That's probably how it's going to go. Going to take a look at these series. Before we do, quick update on the game tonight, Ray. Some reporting from Ian Rappaport, and it's in regards to these backfields.
Yeah, we talked a lot about it earlier in the show. Rappaport is reporting that Latavius Murray will not be active tonight. He will be out of the game. He's not ready to go. He was in London. The week is short, all that kind of stuff. So kind of as we thought, too difficult for him to be up to speed enough to play tonight. So Latavius Murray is out. of the backfield for the Broncos. So it will be Gordon and Boone leading the way.
I'm glad he's had a hell of a whirlwind of a week, Ray.
Right?
Like probably he flew over to London, probably was just minding his own business. Practice squad, I'm not going to play. I'm going to go out and eat fish and chips all week. And then probably Saturday, Ray, he got the word that he was going to play because Alvin Kamara couldn't. And then he goes out. He was fine. They fly back. He probably woke up Monday, Ray, and didn't even know he'd been claimed. I bet he woke up and had no idea he'd been claimed while he was sleeping. He probably had immense jet lag. And then he has to fly to Denver. They go through the physical and everything. And you're right. It is too tough of a turnaround for Latavius Murray. I think he will have a role with this team as we go through the season. But tonight, I guess, just too much of a stretch for him.
And remember, too, on top of all of that, the game is in Denver, which you have to get acclimated to physically as well. So that's even another roadblock in his way.
Yeah, hopefully got a diary going on those trips because it's a pretty wild one there for Latavius Murray. Again, that game coming up tonight. Let's see, kickoff officially is 8:15 Eastern for the Colts and the Broncos. Okay, back to baseball, Ray, and we'll preview these 4 series starting up. And again, folks, these are best of 3. So they play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No off days, no nothing. Best of 3. Things could be over by Saturday. So it is a quick and easy. 162 means nothing as we get into this weekend. We'll start with that Tampa-Cleveland series. Cleveland is the slight favorite here, minus 125 to take the series. Tampa is at plus 105. I kind of drew up a question for all the teams, Ray, that we're going to talk about here this weekend. Question with Tampa is not who the hell are these guys, because that's the same question for Cleveland. Who are these? Question for Tampa, Ray, is right now Game 2's starter is Tyler Glasnow. Can he be Tyler Glasnow? He's missed almost the entire season coming off Tommy John surgery, and yet they're going to throw him out in Game 2 of the playoffs. I mean, can he even go 5 innings at this point when you look at him for this game?
Well, the problem with answering that in the affirmative is twofold. Number one, he's such a strikeout arm that pitches add up pretty quickly sometimes for him, right? It's not like he's going to get a bunch of grounders and he's going to go through the game. Secondly, if you look at his pitch counts, he threw 50 and 64 pitches. Could he go 5 innings at 70 pitches, 75? He could. Would I bet on that? No. And I mean,
he's a glorified opener tomorrow.
He is, and it's the Rays, and they don't care. They probably told him, give us 4 innings. That's probably what they told him, right? Give us 4 innings, and we'll see what happens. They're fine with that. They're comfortable with that. So they'll piece it together. But yeah, you can create a scenario where he gets to 5 innings. I think you can create more scenarios where he doesn't.
On the Cleveland side, Ray, and again, this speaks to their offense. People have done the studies. They've broken down the numbers. What wins in October? Swing and miss stuff, getting strikeouts, and hitting home runs. That's like what matters. If you can do those 2 things, you got a good chance of winning in October. This Cleveland team won 92 games, Ray. Shocker of shockers. But look at these home run totals. You get Jose Ramirez, who almost got to 30. He got 29. You get 20 from Josh Naylor. And then I think 17 from Andres Jimenez, 11 from Rosario. Stephen Kwan has 6. Miles Straw, who played almost every single game, 152 of them, has 0. Now, Ray, they don't have home runs here. I guess they've gotten a little more from Oscar Gonzalez, but is it just too much to ask? I mean, can you beat Tampa, but you can't beat anybody else? I mean, is this like the one matchup that the Guardians could win, or the one matchup they could be favored in?
Well, obviously, this. When the series is short, things happen, right? It's not always the best team that wins. You get a good pitching performance, you get an out-of-nowhere pitching performance, and you win 2 games, right? The offense, this style that the Guardians, as you correctly pointed out, play is something that can work. It obviously has, but it's a challenge. When you have a lineup where legitimately, you have only 2 guys on your team that can even hit a home run once every 2 weeks. I mean, that's tough, especially when you're facing the elite guys. You're no longer facing 4th and 5th starters. You're no longer facing bullpen games, right? You're not doing that. You're facing the other team's top guys. So it's going to take a lot, if having patience and working the count and on base and you know, that style can work too, right? But that's dependent upon the pitcher struggling, and they're less likely to do that when you start removing the back end of rotations and focusing on those top guys.
You know, picking playoff winners is not easy money at all. It's really difficult, like you said, Ray. 3-game series, a team gets hot, a pitcher gets hot, all that. I'll take Tampa here to win in Cleveland, to take this 3-game set. Who's your pick?
I would take Tampa too. When it comes down to if it at a baseline level, if it comes down to uncertainty, how we're going to go, how do you go against Tampa in that scenario? Even if you don't know much about the match, they've got pieces and they know how to deploy those pieces, and they've been doing it a lot longer than the Guardians have.
Yeah, been there, done that kind of thing. Let's go to that Philadelphia-St. Louis series. 3-game set in St. Louis starts tomorrow. Odds have the Cardinals at -135. Phillies come in at +115. There is a big question mark on the Phillies side, Ray, and it's Bryce Harper. Since he came back from the thumb injury, frankly, he just hasn't hit. His numbers are pretty ugly over 35 games. Now, he broke his thumb. I think he sat down for about 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. He was having an MVP-like season, maybe not like the MVP season, but it was a good year. He was having an all-star year. Ray, he has come back, and there's nothing here. I mean, you got a guy hitting 230. You got a guy slugging 350 in 35 games. He's got to be a concern going into this series.
Yeah, I mean, unlike the Guardians, though, I mean, you've got the NL home run leader in Schwarber. You've got the 20-plus home run power of JT Realmuto. Reese Hoskins hit 30 home runs this year. So there's, you know, this is a good lineup. It's a deep lineup. And so Harper, as much as it's on him, it is, doesn't have to carry the offense. He can be good and not great, and it can still work. But this is another one of those scenarios too, where it's like, you know, you make a bad pitch to Bryce Harper. It doesn't matter how bad he's going. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a fine line. And, you know, focus matters, concentration matters. A lot of guys have been crappy, and they seem to dial it up, you know, in the postseason. And maybe Harper, he certainly has a talent to that. But your point is valid that, you know, it's an issue. Anytime you get thumbs, hands, wrists, we talk about it all the time. Power often is something that slowly comes back, and it hasn't gotten back yet for Harper.
And you mentioned the moment, Ray. Now, Harper's been in the postseason, but not a ton. Most of these Phillies have not. I mean, Schwarber's got his Cubs career to kind of rely on, but guys like Hoskins, Bohm, hell, even Wheeler and Nola, they've never been in the postseason. So this is kind of going to be new ground, if you will, for them to cover. On the Cardinals side, and maybe this has changed now. I mean, we're sitting at 1:50 Eastern, but I was looking a couple of hours ago, Ray, and they had not named a starter for any of their 3 games. It was TBD. And I look at the Cardinals, and they've got a rookie manager in Ollie Marmol. Now, obviously, he did a very fine job. Nothing but positives here out of St. Louis. Everybody loves Ollie Marmol. He's done a great job managing expectations, injuries, Pujols, Molina, all that stuff. But, Ray, they're really putting an onus on pitching decisions now. And this is difficult. This is a whole new ball of wax, if you will, that he will have to work his way through. And outside of Ryan Helsley in the bullpen, they kind of mix and match too. The decisions are big on the starting pitching front. You know, a guy like Adam Wainwright, you think, oh my gosh, Mr. Postseason here in St. Louis. He may not pitch. He may come out of the bullpen, or they may bring him back for game 3. Like, there's a lot riding on Ollie Marmol and like all the decision makers making the right moves with the pitching this weekend.
Yeah, doesn't it always come down to pitching? It really, and there's storylines. You know, you got the aging veteran, you got the guy that's always hurt, you've got the addition at the trade deadline. I mean, there's a lot of storylines when you talk starting pitching, in particular with the Cardinals. But yeah, this is, you know, every move is scrutinized all year long, but in the playoffs, it's all scrutinized. And
well,
you know,
and on the starting pitchers, Ray, they got like 5 of the same dudes. It's like 5 guys who are all kind of they all had decent years to good years, but none of them has the look of an ace, I guess. Right. Like if Miles Michaelis is your ace, that's a stretch for anybody else in baseball.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher, and he's the kind of guy you need to get to the playoffs. But is he? Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what their pitching staff is, and that's fine. And that's why it's always so interesting. Over 162 games versus 573. What do you got? And a lot of these teams that don't have great records because maybe they didn't have depth, maybe guys were hurt. They got 3 bangers on the hill. And do the Cardinals have that? No. They've got good pitching. They've got depth. They've got, Gallegos and Helsley have been fantastic. I guess Helsley's hand's okay after he had that fall. But they've got some dynamite guys out there in the pen, and they've got really good pitchers. But to your point, Wainwright struggled down the stretch. Mikolas is not a dominator by any stretch. So it'll be interesting to see how they, the coach, the manager, makes the decisions here and what buttons get pushed.
Yeah, we'll see if the magic dust continues on a guy like Quintana as well. Pujols, too. I'll still take the Cardinals here, Ray. They get the 3 games. Philadelphia has been hugely inconsistent. They kind of backed into the playoffs, frankly. Give me St. Louis here.
I'll take St. Louis, too. Let's just hope that Arenado's healthy. I know they was dealing with some things there at the end, but St. Louis will be my selection here as well, Kyle.
Let's go to Seattle at Toronto. Mariners an underdog here, plus 140. I think it was yesterday I said I'm taking the Mariners, so you already know my pick. Taking Seattle here. Toronto minus 170. Ray, what I'm riding on with that pick is, and I think it's the big question for Seattle, their starting pitchers have got to go like 6, maybe even 7 innings. They got to win with pitching here. Their lineup, it's got some names, Ray, and like Julio Rodriguez is a big one, and we all have heard of Jesse Winker and Mitch Haniger and Ty France, like J.P. Crawford. These guys are not bad, don't get me wrong, but there's like one real difference maker in that Mariners lineup. Their difference makers are on the hill, bullpen and rotation. If those guys are strong, Ray, I think they can shut down Toronto here. The problem is we got to make sure those guys are strong. Castillo, Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert, there's no playoff experience with any of these guys.
Yeah, I think one of the big keys might end up being if we see George Kirby and what role does he fill? Because for the majority of this season, George Kirby has been fantastic. Toward the end, he struggled. He started walking guys a little bit, nothing crazy, but certainly not who he is. He's a dart throw, one walk, a start kind of guy. I'm really interested to see if he can fill a depth role in the bullpen if they need that. It's good to know they have them. Let's say that Logan Gilbert goes out there and just doesn't have it. They can pivot to Kirby. He can give him 4 or 5 innings, kind of that, long relief role, if you will. But you said this earlier when you were talking about the pitching staff. It's not just the 3 guys that they're going to start. Their bullpen's been pretty good, and they've got all those guys that they can attack batters with. So, yeah, that definitely is where the Mariners are likely to win or lose this series on the hill.
And the beauty, Ray, is you have the stare down. You got really good pitching on Seattle. You could maybe make the argument Toronto. Now, the Dodgers probably win this, but Toronto maybe has the second best lineup in the postseason, or the Braves higher. Like Toronto, Ray, it's a really threatening lineup. I know they haven't really clicked, but they do actually lead in a lot of categories offensively. I think weighted runs created, which is kind of a cool analytical. They're the best team in baseball offensively. So let's call it this: really good lineup going for the Blue Jays, but they didn't necessarily roll through the season. It was kind of, this guy carries us for 2 weeks, this guy for 2 weeks, this guy for 4. It never all coalesced for the Blue Jays offense this year.
It didn't, but do you want to pitch against that group?
Nope.
That's,
not in Toronto. No.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're talking about guys hitting 7th that are 300 hitters or whatever. This is a really good lineup. And, we discussed earlier in the week, we talked about, Kirk and Jansen, what they've done at the catcher spot. Santiago Espinal has been really good this season. He wasn't great in the fantasy game, but he's really good, filled an important role. He got hurt. They added Whit Merrifield, who did nothing for weeks after they added him at the trade deadline. Whit Merrifield had 450 the last 2 weeks of the season. All of a sudden, he's hitting balls out. You add a guy like that, and again, talking like the Phillies about just lengthening a lineup, and you got Vlad, you got Bichette, Springer, Kirk, Chapman, Teoscar Hernandez. This is a really good lineup, and we know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but sometimes groups go into a slump together or they get hot together. If those guys are all swinging the bat well, it may not matter how good your pitching is. It's a dynamic, at least potentially dynamic offensive lineup.
I'm Team Seattle at plus 140. How about you?
I'm Team Toronto.
Team Toronto. Okay.
Team Toronto.
Well, they're the heavy favorite. They're not the most significant favorite this weekend, though. That would be the Mets. Mets are minus 175 for their series against the Padres. San Diego at plus 145. Ray, I was just talking about Seattle's lineup. It's Julio Rodriguez and then decent guys. San Diego, Ray, it's Machado, who killed it all year. I'm still going to include Juan Soto in that class. It's Juan Soto, but he hasn't been hitting. Cronenworth, Brandon Drury. Like, I think when people start, like, you look at San Diego's lineup, you think, oh, this is good. This should be solid. You know, Trent Grisham's done things in years past. Josh Bell's. But really, Ray, these guys haven't hit. They've been a mess of trying to figure it out at the plate. That is not a good spot to be in when you have to face Max Scherzer and Jake DeGrom.
Yeah, Tatis is out. Soto is a little bit better down the stretch, but still, you know, he struggled. Trent Grisham got 524 plate appearances and hit 184, which, I mean, good defense and all. My gosh,
At least they're not leading him off.
Yeah, right. They finally made that move. Like, he and Bellinger having that battle of Southern California. Who's the worst everyday player in baseball? You're totally right. This is a team that piece-wise, Will Myers wasn't long ago. Will Myers was the guy, right? He had some moments this year, but he's been injured and hasn't done anything. Their lineup, I mean, you know, you're looking at this lineup and like you're saying, you know, who's there? Is Cronenworth their third best offensive player? Profar? Yeah, it's a little rough.
It's got some name recognition, but not really the results. On the flip side, Ray, and you know, we talk about bringing the heat. Like DeGrom throws 99 with every fastball. Scherzer probably doesn't reach that much anymore, but throws hard. The Padres are the worst. I was reading this. I think it was over at The Athletic. It's not according to every metric. There's a lot of metrics, kind of like defense, but according to many metrics, the Padres can't hit a fastball. And now you're asked to hit Jake DeGrom and Max Scherzer. Ray, this is why they've got these guys with New York. You know, for Scherzer and DeGrom to roll through a 3-game series. You know, foreshadowing my pick, I know the Mets have kind of slid here at the end, but they still played very well. Padres haven't had it going at all. I mean, they've just been 2 steps forward, 3 steps back for weeks. I think the Mets take this series. It maybe goes 3, but I just can't see the Padres suddenly flipping a switch and all of a sudden they're ready to hit.
Which could ultimately be the issue, right? Because you look at their top 3, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, and Blake Snell, that's really good too. They've had some issues, obviously, you know, especially with Sean Manaea, who tanked in the second half, and Mike Clevenger's now, maybe he's going to be with the team or not. He missed a start yesterday because of an illness. But those top 3 pitchers, especially with Snell pitching as well as he did down the stretch, like that's a rough series of guys to face too. But you're right. Their offense just doesn't look sharp. It's not complete at the moment. You're facing arguably the 2 best righties in baseball. That's why the Mets, like you said, got those guys in there. You got to go with the Mets. But the Padres could still make a series out of this, Kyle.
Now, our resident Padres man, Wookie, says he's all Padres. That's to be expected.
Of course.
Apologies to Wookie. I'm taking the Mets here. Now, minus 175. This series to me is 2 hit or miss to really bet that, but I'll take the Mets as the pick here.
Yeah, I agree. Would I bet minus 175? Nah. Do I think they're going to win it? Yeah.
That is the one series, Ray, I kind of think goes 3. I could see maybe going 3. I would rank them Philly, St. Louis, San Diego, the Mets, Seattle, Toronto, Tampa, Cleveland. Like the odds of them going 3 games. How would you rank them?
Say it again?
Mine would be Philly, St. Louis, Seattle, Toronto, San Diego and the Mets, and then Tampa and Cleveland. Different order for you?
I'm thinking about that.
I can tell.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
I don't think anything that's. Oh, I don't. By that I mean I don't think anything that stands out that I think you're wrong about. Yeah, it's.
Which one do you think has the best odds of being over by Saturday night?
I guess the Mets one.
Yeah, I can see it. Got Scherzer, DeGrom. Why not?
Yeah.
If you get 7 innings from them. Okay.
We did get an update here just 17 seconds ago, Kyle.
What?
Kevin
Max
Gausman,
Scherzer
according to Ross Atkins. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not about Kadarius Toney's hamstring. Kevin Gausman's got that issue he's dealing with. He's not locked in to start a game, but he's likely to pitch in game 2 or 3 for the Blue Jays. So
meaning he'll be removed after 2.5 innings.
Possibly.
That's the other thing. Man, these starters just get yanked like that. Like nobody's business.
Santiago Espinal and Lourdes Gurriel, still we're not certain if they're going to be active though. So that's the negative.
And 24 hours away from these things starting. Can we get a lineup? Can we figure out who's pitching? Playoffs begin tomorrow. That is our preview. We'll take a breather here when we come back. How about tonight? More on the Colts and the Broncos. Tyler Beaker, fantasy guru, makes his Thursday appearance next, right here on Lunch Money.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis.
Alvin Kamara, about if I had to guesstimate about an hour before game time, gets ruled out, and it lights the world on fire once everybody wakes up. That had Alvin Kamara still in their lineups, you've got West Coasters trying to get a redo or trying to get a sub in because it's unfair that they have to wake up so early to get him out of the lineup and make sure that everyone who's active and in the lineup should be. But isn't that fantasy football, man? Didn't we warn everyone about this?
Yeah, we had this exact conversation last week, which is why it was so funny when I saw all these people on Twitter complaining and asking for a retroactive move. Because this same situation happened the last time I think Saints were in London, and I went over the story. It involved Alvin Kamara. Same thing. My opponent had Kamara in the lineup, and in the halfway through the game, he asked the commissioner, hey, I don't even know where maybe he was California, somewhere on the West Coast. Oh, I woke up late. I didn't know he's out. Can I replace him? And the commissioner comes to me and says, hey, your opponent wants to replace Kamara. I'm cool with it if you are. I said, no, I'm not cool with it, man. This is just like anything in life. It's your responsibility. You knew that there are going to be games at 9:30 a.m. Eastern this year. I hate waking up early, but you just have to wake up early and do it.
What's stopping you from going back to bed? That's the big thing. What's stopping you from that? You get up, change your lives, go pee, go back to bed. It's one of those things that from now on, when you have anyone involved in London games that are the least bit questionable, including injuries that you see late in the week, let's say this happens, all of a sudden, minor tweak for someone, like you're still waking up that morning to make sure that player is playing. It's a few weeks a year in Rome. We're lucky that the NFL doesn't go completely worldwide and we have games in different countries every single week.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Dude, Jeff Wilson looked fantastic last night.
No,
did you see that?
Jeff Wilson had one great 32-yard touchdown.
Did you see the run? Did you see the run?
JL, the run was incredible. But I just want to look at the rest of this stat line to tell you why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74. That's why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74 with a 32-yard run. So really, that puts 74 minus 32. Without that one run, that's 17 for 32 yards. Or
4.1 a carry? You're complaining about 4.1 a carry?
Yeah.
Why? 4.1's not that bad.
It's jail. Without that touchdown, we're looking at a 17 for 42-yard game, which is whatever. You know what I mean? Okay, it's fine.
18 carries. You were turning your nose up at 18 carries.
I don't hate Jeff Wilson. And it's not that I won't start him. I think he's a perfectly fine start, but that's where the line ends. Anybody who thinks he's anything more than just a fine start is where I have a problem. He's just not exciting. He's not a player that's going to just completely blow up on a given week. He got the touchdown this week. You're thrilled. But next week when he doesn't get the touchdown, when he's 18 for 57 yards, you're going to be like, well, shoot, another classic Jeff week.
Bettor Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better. It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Okay, right back at you. Kyle and Ray on a Thursday, getting set for week numero cinco. That's right, Ray, isn't it? Cinco? That's
yeah,
5.
Good Spanish there, Kyle. You remember from school. Good job.
Yeah, 4 years back when I was 17. It's still holding up all these decades later. Yeah, I know my digits 1 through 10. After that, who the hell knows? I can order ocho cervezas.
Do you normally order 8?
Yeah, that's how I order.
Okay, wow.
That's how everybody orders down there. Right? Ocho cervezas. 888. Okay, we probably have 8 different running backs available tonight for the Colts and Broncos. We're trending that way. We do have the news that Latavius Murray will be inactive. Not going to be available tonight. So it's looking like a 2-man game for the Broncos. That would be Melvin Gordon and Mike Boone. Probably a 3-man game for the Colts. There's a lot of confusion. These offenses haven't looked good. We got injured defensive pieces. We've got teams that need a win. Let's talk to Tyler Beaker. He is with us, fantasyguru.com. He stops by every Thursday, and he probably knows Spanish a lot better than I do. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm good. I was actually a Latin student in high school, so minimal Spanish here as well.
The language of the dead, the Latin. Okay.
Yeah.
I was even worse. I studied Greek.
Greek?
Ancient Greek, biblical Greek, which is not even a spoken language anymore. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Tyler.
Can you read it, Ray? Can you speak it? Like, I mean,
no,
it sounds like gibberish.
Yeah, no, I can't do either at this point in my life. That was 20 years ago, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah, so Ray's out on that one. Tyler, are you still able to handle Latin? I bet you see a lot of Latin phrases and you know immediately what they're talking about.
Yeah, phrases and a lot of the roots of words come from it, which really, really helped in terms of learning stuff in high school and just life in general.
Awesome. Well, there you go. We always ask you this because you are a guest. You're here on Lunch Money. Tyler, something exciting for lunch today, or is this another healthy meal that Tyler Beaker's not?
It was sort of a soup day, so nothing
Soup
crazy
day.
healthy, but soup's usually high in sodium, so they're not the best for you.
I am learning. I think Thursdays are soup days at the Beaker household.
It's got a cardio shirt on there too.
I do, yes, yeah, from our friends at Underdog, yeah.
Yeah.
They had a fun little promo going on this off season here this summer of doing some of their best ball tournaments while doing cardio. So trying to get a little bit in shape.
Wait a second. You had to draft a team and build a team while you exercised?
Correct. Yeah. So.
Oh no.
On the treadmill, doing the bike, doing all whatever.
I would still be drinking a beer if he was doing that.
Ocho cervezas. That's what I'm doing. Oh my gosh, Ray, have you ever drafted while you were exercising? Oh my god.
I read books when I exercise. I've done that kind of, but no, I've never drafted while exercising. Tyler's got me beat.
Whew. That's a rare breed, Tyler Beaker and the crew, exercising while drafting. Okay, let's fast forward to tonight. Like everybody knows, Tyler, the backfields are a mess. The starters are out. You're a guy who likes to look at game scripts, like to look at what teams have done and apply it to the present and say, okay, they've done this in week 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here's what we can expect in 5. Are we able to do that when both teams have lost their lead running back? Like how good do you feel about making certain calls and saying, hey, they've done this and they're going to still do it in week number 5?
Well, on a full slate, like on a typical Sunday, if this game were on a Sunday, I think we'd probably be very selective in the bets we made here and picking just a few of our ideal matchups that we're targeting here. So I'm not really going crazy on bets and different props and plays on this specific game, given all of the uncertainty that you just described with the running backs. I like to exploit edges, and I just feel like there's a lot of unknowns here where the edges are minimal. So I'm just not really going crazy here. We also have two very anemic offenses that both lost their starting running backs. Like both these teams are bottom 10 in points per game. Both these teams are bottom 6 in red zone to touchdown rate. Both these teams are bottom 10 in the first half points scored. Like it's just not looking pretty. And given the unknowns with the running back rotations, the Latavius Murray, very, very big news there that you just announced. That was news to me because I just missed that. But it's still not adding a ton of clarity given that we've seen the Broncos go from back to back, whether that be due to Melvin Gordon's fumbling or Mike Boone dropping third down checkdowns. There's just a lot of uncertainty here, and it's not like it's like a great defense to attack, on the ground here with what we're looking at with the Broncos. So I'm just kind of apprehensive here, I think, with this whole game, and it's just probably one to play lightly.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. We talked about this game a lot ourselves earlier, Tyler, but we got people in the chat room asking questions. Obviously, the same thing happening over in the Discord at fantasyguru.com. Let's talk about each backfield because we got to address specifically because people have questions. They lost Javonte, they lost Jonathan Taylor. Let's start out with the Colts. We got the elevation news with Lindsey. It's a revenge game. What are we doing here? I mean, Hines is the guy to play, right? But what does that look like? We all know that he's a pass catching component. The game flow doesn't seem to be one that's going to be a huge piece of what they're going to do. But again, he's also going to get snaps. So do what you can with us with that messy backfield with the Colts.
Yes, I don't think like any of these are like must plays, especially given that it's a Thursday. We don't know the rotations for either of these backfields. If you have comparable flex plays, whether it be at the wide receiver position or another running back, I think that's a much more viable path to take. With Hines, I think it's a fine PPR only flex play. I see his receiving prop right now is at 3.5 with some heavy juice or over 4.5 with positive juice right there. So you can like really be selective there. And I think that disparity that's offered at two different lines kind of shows that even Vegas isn't sure how to set up this game. So I'm kind of apprehensive there. I think he's a back end flex play at best. Lindsey, I think, is really just a DFS showdown captain because he's like the stone minimum, I think. So you can plug him in and then just plug whoever the heck you want in those other 5 spots for any kind of DraftKings DFS showdown plays you want to do. But Denver's defense, like, you can run on them. So I think Lindsey could find some success here. It's just a question of how many touches he'll get. And does Deion Jackson get any play? I don't really think so. I think it'll mostly be Lindsey and Hines. But it could also be a game where, because there's no Taylor, we see the Colts pass a little bit more. They use all those tight ends. They use Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. And maybe we just see the ball spread out a bit more. And again, like, this isn't really a fast-paced like matchup. Like, it's very, very middle of the pack in terms of pace of play. These teams are 19th and 20th in seconds per snap during neutral script. So we're not expecting a boatload of volume here. And in a matchup that's not like a cupcake matchup or one that we want to target, and pace isn't really ideal, this is just not the best game environment to go crazy with your flex plays and start your week from behind. If you can put up like Lindsey here or Naheem Hines and they have 5 or 6 points, you're probably not going to be too happy with that as you enter Sunday.
Talking to Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. And Tyler, you mentioned the passing piece with the Colts, so let's talk about that. Pittman is a guy we've gotten the rankings over at fantasyguru.com, top 20 guy this week. He's the guy in the passing game that no one else has emerged to this point in time. A lot of people are showing some trepidation, though, with Pittman tonight. I don't think it's much about, hey, we're worried about Matt Ryan or the offense. It's the matchup. You do the cornerback wide receiver thing. I know that's something you focus on all the time. Where would you put Pittman this week? Is he still a wide receiver 2 with confidence with you, or do you have some concerns because of the matchup?
No, I don't have a ton of confidence here. Again, there's a lot of questions in terms of the overall play volume. And then Pittman's matchup of himself, like, he's expected to be shadowed by Pat Surtain Jr., an emerging young cornerback, really, really good. Over the last few weeks, he's been holding down some top receivers. Like, per ESPN's tracking, Surtain gave up 54 yards to Devontae Adams, 28 to DK Metcalf, and 0 to Brandon Ayuk whenever trailing these guys exclusively on the perimeter. And that's where Pittman runs over 80% of his routes. So he's going to spend most of his day against Surtain. I mean, Pittman can still get there, sure, but I don't think he's going to be a guy that goes for 70 plus, 80 plus, or if he gets a touchdown, you're happy. But I think it's a good week to bet unders on Pittman and not be super excited about his ceiling outlook. So I would put him more in that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 borderline play over a guy that's typically a top 15 option.
You know, you say that about Pittman, and we're dealing with Jonathan Taylor, and it's a road game in Denver. You also have to consider, my goodness, how ugly the numbers have been with Matt Ryan. And, you know, Matt Ryan has a lot of years with a lot of success, but this year has been a disaster. And I wonder, Tyler, is this all on the offensive line, or is a lot of all this on Matt Ryan? Do you think this just continues to be a spiraling out of control situation? Like, what is the level of blame, I guess, you would assign to Matt Ryan at this point with how he's playing and how this offense is performing?
Quite a bit. He has trailed excessively in EPA per pass play. That's expected points added. He's just not really helping this offense move the ball down the field or score when they have the opportunity to do so. He's really struggling. I'm a bit surprised because I took Colts team total over for the season. I took Colts to win the division. So I'm sitting a little nervous here 4 weeks into the season. We're not seeing the Ryan that I expected to see. And maybe we get this team going eventually. I just don't know if this week 5 spot on a short week on Thursday Night Football is the spot where the Colts turn it around and finally get going. I just have a lot of hesitancy with Matt Ryan. And I heard you guys talking about an hour ago on Matt Ryan under props with his passing yardage total. And I'm kind of on board with that as well, because I just don't see this being a very big opportunity for them to go vertical. The Broncos defense, I really respect what they bring to the table. And I think they hold this team in check for the most part.
Tyler, what about the other side of things? With Denver, we've got Javonte Williams out. Obviously, at fantasyguru.com, we pushed him all offseason, so we know a lot of our people are struggling this week. Hopefully, they were able to have Melvin Gordon as the backup, though he was expensive, so a lot of people didn't necessarily get him. We're all expecting Gordon to be the lead back tonight, but talk to us about what you're expecting from the backfield of the Broncos tonight. We know that Gordon's had some issues with holding on to the football. Ball security is a big issue. Boone will be involved. What do you see with the backfield?
Yeah, Boone will be the pass catching back, and I'm expecting Melvin to do the early down stuff. The problem is for Melvin, it's not a great matchup whatsoever. The Colts are number 2 in run DVOA defense. They're number 7 in rush EPA per play allowed, and they're giving up the 7th fewest rush yards to opposing backs. So it's not a great matchup for Melvin. Plus, he's got 4 fumbles in 4 games. I imagine it's a very short leash. A 5th fumble is probably putting him on the bench. Mike Boone will probably be the guy that, like, I'm envisioning kind of like how the Rams do it, with like Cam Akers being the early down back, Darrell Henderson being the third down change of pace option. That's kind of what I'm viewing as the split here. So if you want to use that as a like a simile of what to expect, with Boone kind of being the guy to target in pass catching scripts. And perhaps if we get some early Melvin fumbles, if he does it in the first quarter, maybe Mike Boone gets much more carries than I'm anticipating. But it's just, again, just not a great matchup on the ground for these guys. So given the struggles that this team has had, I don't know if you can play either with much confidence, but I'd treat them both as back end flex plays. And again, I think it's wiser to go elsewhere, whether that be at the wide receiver or running back position. Like you have alternate things available to you. With we have 0 teams on bye weeks don't start till next week, so there's still a lot of players out there that you can lean on instead of going toward one of these thinner flex plays this week.
In the passing attack with the Broncos, it's basically been about 2 guys to this point. It's been Sutton and Judy. And both Kyle and I said, yeah, you start Sutton, no question about that. We had a little bit of a disagreement on Judy. What are your thoughts on Judy? Talk to us about the numbers, what you see, what you expect with Jerry Judy tonight.
Yeah, so Sutton's numbers kind of take a dip back playing man versus zone, and the Colts are very zone heavy. I think they're top 6 in zone rate. So I'm expecting Sutton to have a good game, but probably not going to be a 125 plus receiving yard outing. But a guy you should confidently put in as a top end wide receiver too. Judy's kind of still in that wide receiver 4, flex play kind of range for me, just because we haven't really seen him get enough volume to actually merit jumping in that wide receiver 3 category quite yet. And then pace of play here, it just really doesn't it doesn't set up for Judy to make that step this specific week. The matchup I think is fine in terms of what the Colts offer against their secondary, but I'm not crazy about this entire offense, and I've been kind of wishy-washy here with this entire segment just because it's not a great game. And I mean, heck, we've had a lot of primetime bummer games to start the season, and I think this one falls in that category once again.
Well, it's crazy. 4 weeks ago, I would have said, oh, this would be a fun one. You know, Colts and Broncos, I thought both offenses would be good. Obviously, we thought Williams and Taylor would be there, but it's lost so much of its juice. The other thing is, the disappointing aspect of both. With Hackett, I mean, everybody's piling on. It's, he sucks. He's overmatched. He's going to be one and done. He'll be out. When you look at what they've done in the 4 games, have they at least been consistent? Have they shown a backbone with what they want to do, or is it kind of changing week after week and they almost seem to be scrambling? Or do you see, hey, this team does have a system. They do want to do this. They do want to have this many snaps or pass on these early. What do you see when you look at the Broncos? Are they trying something and at least sticking to it?
I'm seeing a ton of penalties. They are among the league leaders, if not number 1. I looked at 2 weeks ago. I didn't check it after this past week, but they are racking up way too many penalties. They're fine in terms of the yardage that they're producing, but the drives just are not producing points. They're having some struggling with 4th down decisions, some play clock things. There's just a lot of mishandlings with a very, very green coaching staff. I believe it's a brand new head coach, brand new offensive coordinator, brand new defensive coordinator. So just as a staff, they're very, very green. So they're not experiencing a lot of these little intricacies. We're a month into the season now. Hopefully things start turning around. They hired an outside source to come in and kind of help Hackett along with these play calling things and situational awareness kind of thing. So hopefully as the season progresses, they get better, but it's just been a kind of a disaster right now. And then when you add in the element of Javonte Williams being lost, who was one of their most efficient players, rushing and receiving, it's kind of a bummer. We just really haven't seen Russell Wilson take this offense to the next level. Geno Smith in Seattle is doing far better than what Russell and Denver are doing here. So I don't have anything positive to say, so I'm trying to just tiptoe around it. But the Broncos have the potential. Maybe they get it done here against this Colts team where you can throw against. We just need to see them actually execute.
Well, and I guess that's the final thing for you. Russell Wilson, do you expect this to be fairly pass heavy the rest of the season? Because we know Williams ain't coming back. That ain't changing. Melvin Gordon, Latavius Murray, Mike Boone on the surface, those are very uninspiring. Do you think this will become a pass heavy Bronco offense over the last 3.5 months or so?
I would love that. But I think I know better than to assume that would happen. So far this season, these Broncos have been very Seattle Seahawks-like in terms of their play calling and the splits with Russ. It's just really kind of gross in terms of what they've been doing. So I don't expect them to finally turn into a pass-heavy offense just because they lost one of their star players. We would like that to be the situation because I know many Fantasy Guru subscribers are also invested in Cortland Sutton quite a bit, but I just don't see it. I mean, we need to wait to see that, and I just don't foresee that happening. I'll be honest.
Yeah, 4 games, 131 passes. So that's about 33 a week, 34 a week. We'll see if Russell can go higher than that. For his career, not much better. He's never hit 600 pass attempts. He's only hit 550 a couple of times. So maybe they keep him in that range here in that first year in Denver. Okay, Tyler, good stuff. Really appreciate you dropping in. I suppose you are taking the under tonight, right? There's no doubt you're leaning under on this game, huh?
So the under's been hit pretty hard. It started at 43.5. I believe it's now 42.
Yeah.
So that's kind of low already. So I would take an alternate route if you're kind of slow to the gate here and didn't get a chance to get that, and take the first half under. The Colts are 28th in first half points per game, 5.8 points per game in the first half by the Colts. Denver's not much better. They are 20th, 9.5 points per game. So the first half under is 20.5 on DraftKings right now. These Colts and Denver's combined the 5.8 and 9.5. I just said 16.3. So I think there's some potential there, given both teams are also operating without the running backs. We could see a lot of punts here in the first half. I like the first half under if you missed out on getting that 43.5.
I like that. Good call, Tyler. Hey, man, a pleasure as always. We'll let you enjoy the remainder of your Thursday. Thanks for joining us on Lunch Money, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Tyler Beaker. You can find him on Twitter at Tyler Beaker. That's Buecher. So at Tyler Beaker. He's got more game script write-ups coming up this weekend over at fantasyguru.com. A couple of quick questions in the chat room way. Standard league. Naheem Hines or Deontay Johnson of the Steelers? Standard league, no PPR.
No. That one's tough. The offense is going to change. Pickens, the way the Pickens utilized with last week with Pickett, makes me a little bit nervous about going Deontay Johnson. A rookie quarterback making his first start. I'll go Naheem Hines.
Okay. Pickup here. Javante's been lost. Would you rather have Algier, Rashad White, Pacheco, or Kenneth Walker? So it's kind of that dart throw, Ray.
Again,
could show up.
This question comes up all the time, and I totally get it, but there's no answer to this. The answer to this is who gets hurt. I have no insight. I can't offer you anything. What I can tell you.
Wait a second. There is, Algier, the guy's already gotten hurt.
Yeah. But
these other ones, we are still waiting. So Algier at least has the guy ahead of him out of the way.
He does, but as I've said before here on the show, I'm a Damian Williams guy. Damian Williams was the starting running back, not Cordarrelle Patterson. It was Damian Williams who was the starting quarterback for this team in week 1. He was not only on the field, he was getting all the snaps before he got hurt. I'm still a Damian Williams guy. Patterson's injury is not thought to be long-term. So at Algier, maybe you get 3 weeks of him being a flex option, but I don't see him emerging and getting 18 touches a week. Pacheco has no real value right now because he's only utilized when the game flow is in a certain direction, when they're late with a lead or something like that. But long-term, I'm not a fan of CEH. Just not. I think that Pacheco can be a league winner. He could be the guy, the lead back in this team. He could be going for, 90 scrimmage yards a week and a touchdown later in the year. But all we're basically doing is playing the roll the dice game. So, Kenneth Walker, right now, Penny's got a shoulder issue, didn't practice yesterday.
That's where I was going, Ray. I think Walker's the pickup here. Penny, there is zero expectation he's going to last.
Right.
The guy's always hurt.
Yep.
And he may miss another practice today.
Mm-hmm.
You're totally right. None of these guys, have like, oh, you forgot about this edge. Like, oh, look at this little. They're all just looking for the opportunity. I believe Walker probably has the best. Like, if you were to ask me, Ray, most carries the rest of the season, because that's really who's going to get carries. I'd go Walker on that list. Like, if I were just a point blank say who gets the most carries rest of the year, I feel pretty good about saying Kenneth Walker there.
But I would also say, like Rashad White, his role is starting to grow, and he doesn't have a role that I can say he's ever going to be a starter if Leonard Fournette is fully healthy. Is Leonard Fournette going to stay healthy? If Leonard Fournette goes down, Rashad White's touching it 17 times a week, right? And in a PPR setup, he's catching 4 or 5 passes a week. I mean, again. So the question should be answered, handcuff your guy. If you don't have your guy, I don't think there's an obvious answer here long-term, barring, a catastrophic fail by someone else. And like you said, because Penny right now is dealing with an injury, because of Penny's track record and inability to play a full slate of games, because of the style of game that the Seahawks want to play, I got no problem going with Walker, but that's my answer today. On Monday, it could be totally different.
My concern with like a White or Pacheco, Ray, like let's say Fournette goes down or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Well, first off, in Kansas City, they've got a couple of other guys they could look at. Tampa doesn't necessarily have that. But I think in both cases, Ray, like it wouldn't stun me at all if like the Bucks and the Chiefs just said, screw the run. We're going to pass like crazy. Like to where they say Tom Brady will throw 45 passes every week, 50, and Mahomes will throw 45. Like if that were to happen. Therefore, I'm kind of hesitant to say, hey, Fournette goes down and the Bucks just keep rolling the same kind of offense they would as if Fournette were there. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily buy that White gets a bunch of work. I think he'll be the running back, but I could see the Buccaneers just going all out throwing, and maybe a goal line stuff you have White. But again, there's no like, oh, this has got to be the answer. You ask 4 people, you get 4 different answer. I go Walker. You're going...
I said I'll go Walker because, again, let's play the short-term game. And with Penny's injury track record and the style of offense they want to run with the Seahawks, you can do it. But again, Monday morning, my answer could be completely different.
Yeah. The only one you could start this week is probably Algier. You could still get away with starting him this week.
I think you can, but with the way that offense looks and that matchup, I think we have him ranked like 39th at running back this week. You don't want to be starting him. I mean, again, Patterson had a couple of nice runs, which gave him a couple of nice games. There's a couple of games where they didn't move the ball at all. The passing attack right now is in mud. I'm not looking at that, foul. We don't know Kyle Pitts. He's missed 2 practices with a hamstring. If he's not out there to at least give a defense something to think about, that takes away one of their real 2 passing weapons in the offense. That offense could be a total disaster this week. So I'm not looking to play Algier this week.
Got a little less than a half hour remaining on this edition of Lunch Money. A reminder, Corey Nando and friends coming at your way next. The injury reports and like the official designations, they really tend to come hot and heavy about 3:30 Eastern. We may get a few of those in the next few minutes, and Ray and I will pass them along. But make sure you stay tuned to Corey Nando and friends because they will get a lot of them. They can tell you who's limited, who's officially out. All that coming your way. When we return on Lunch Money, more Week 5 previews. Not all games have a watchability of 2. Believe me, there are some better than a 2. We'll get to some of those next after Duke in his den.
Hey, good afternoon, bettors. It's your boy Duke, back and better than ever. Hour 3 here of Lunch Money. Hope you're having a beautiful day. I am presented, as always, by FantasyGuru.com. Welcome back to Duke's Den. Last hour, if you missed it, I did give out 2 bets. We went 2-2 yesterday, so no blood. But I gave you Colts, Broncos under 42 for tonight's Thursday night football game. Also gave you the Broncos and Packers moneyline parlay. That's your Thursday night, Sunday morning parlay to get you a little extra scratch before that 1 o'clock route begins with all the NFL games. We have 3 bets to get to this hour. No time to waste. Let's jump right into it. Last week, I gave you a couple different Tyler Beaker, one of our analysts over at Fantasy Guru, a couple different props. I gave you the Mad Libs because I'm not just going to give you the prop for free. You got to work for it a little bit, right? So fill in the blanks. Okay, this is how we play. A running back over 61.5 rushing yards at MGM, that's minus 115. Okay, that's the bet. A running back over 61.5 yards. Here are the clues. His opposition this week is giving up the most rushing yards to opposing running backs and allow over 5 yards per carry. They're also the number 2 and highest rate of explosive rushes allowed, giving up big chunk gains. This running back that we're betting on has hit this prop over 61.5 in 3 of his 4 games, only missing last week due to a wild game script in Philly. Now, his team is a 7-point home favorite. Hint, you should be able to figure this out. 7-point home favorite. And should be a running heavily against their opposition. Again, that's run against the 4th highest rate in neutral scripts. So a running back over 61.5 rushing yards, minus 115 on MGM. His team is a 7-point home favorite. The opposition stinks at run defense. Go figure it out. You got a free prop. Now, I also said I have 2 other bets. College football. I've had some success with this Ohio State team. I'm going to stick with it. I understand their game flows and the motivation of each team. They're heading to East Lansing this weekend to take on the Spartans, who, by all accounts, are down big this year. Buckeyes currently 27-point favorites, which seems like an obvious spot to hammer, but Michigan State is one of those tricky teams where they kind of give Ohio State a close game. Not so fast, my friend. That's the old Michigan State. This new Michigan State, ever since D'Antoni left, is a paper tiger, if you will. They are not holding up Last year, they got beat 56-7 by these Buckeyes, 52-12 the year before. The offense is humming. Mayan Williams is a monster. I'm laying the 27. I'll probably even look for alt lines as well, because I think this is going to be a humiliation up in Lisa Lansing. I'm short on time, so no explanation needed for the third game. Tennessee minus 2.5. I'm just going to say this game should be 5 to 6 points. So Tennessee minus 2.5, Ohio State minus 27. Laying some points, but giving you some winners. Ray and Kyle today. Back for more tomorrow. Adios.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
It is Lunch Money, brought to you by Fantasy Guru. Another full day courtesy of Duke. Thanks for that. Tyler Beaker joined us earlier from Fantasy Guru, so we will make use of those guys. And believe it or not, we got basketball and hockey just around the corner. We will talk some basketball and hockey as we get deep into those seasons, and probably make use of all of those analysts with FG.com. Now, if you caught yesterday's edition of Lunch Money, and for those who might have missed it, you can hunt it down on demand. $3 a month to get all of our shows, not just this one, but every single show on the network. $3 a month to get it on demand. Ray, we were talking a lot about memorabilia yesterday. Our producer, Heather Klein, she stumbled across an article talking about baseball sales. And the Aaron Judge 62 has not been sold yet. The guy who owns it is already a millionaire, I think. So it doesn't really matter to him. You know, life has a funny way of working. But we do have price tags, Ray, on the most expensive baseballs ever sold. What's fascinating about this list is only one baseball has gone for over $1 million. That was McGuire's number 70. Now, it was sold relatively soon after it happened. I think it was like the next year or so. It went for $3 million. Now, you know what's crazy about that story, Ray, is the guy who caught it. All he asked for was to meet McGuire and like maybe get an autograph or a picture. And McGuire said no to him. So he kept the ball, made $3 million off it. So good for him. Yeah. I mean, even Barry Bonds would meet a fan.
Right? That's so bad. Yeah. What was that story? Jeez.
Number 2 on the most expensive baseballs ever sold, Babe Ruth All-Star Game home run in 1933, which was actually the first ever home run hit in the All-Star Game.
Oh, nice.
Surprisingly, it only went for $805,000.
That is it's very surprising. Yeah.
And the guy who had it had held on to the ball for 73 years.
Wow.
Before selling it. If I had that ball, Ray, I would have said that's $1 million baseball, right?
I would absolutely think so. Maybe was there a problem? I wonder if the verification was concerning. I don't know.
It was also a while back. That was sold in 2006. So I'd have to think, Ray, we're well over $1 million. Hasn't been on the market since, but that one will go over $1 million. Bonds number 756 went for $750K. That was relatively soon after he hit it. Hank Aaron's 755 went for $650,000.
What year was that?
1999. So that one's probably at least doubled.
Yeah, I would think at least. Yeah.
Bonds number 73. Todd McFarlane bought it. 520,000. 762 for Bonds, 375. Bonds number 500. How about this? And this has got to be timing. Eddie Murray number 500. 280 grand. Think about this, Ray. Eddie Murray's 500th home run actually went for more money than Bonds number 715.
That's crazy. I mean, Eddie Murray's one of the best switch hitters in all-time history, right? I mean, that's not down Eddie Murray, but that's pretty surprising. Yeah.
I would think, because of all the hullabaloo and the fact that the collectibles market has just exploded, my guess would be, Ray, that in like the next year, we're going to have baseballs everywhere being auctioned off. It's like time to strike the iron while it's hot. It's time to get rolling on that front. Like, and again, the Judge ball, I'm guessing the Judge ball, Ray, if that McGuire ball went for $3 million, Judge is probably topping that, I would guess.
Fair.
We'll see. But there's got to be a lot of other baseballs jumping out, including that Babe Ruth All-Star Game home run. That should be way high. on that list. I always think the last home run, and this is kind of what we've been talking about over the previous weeks, the last home runs of whatever it is, the player's last home run, the season's last home. To me, Ray, that's the one that's special. Like, that's the one I want. I was lucky enough on Sunday, I was at the Cardinals game when Pujols hit his home run. I was really hoping, Ray, he'd stop hitting home runs then, but then he went to Pittsburgh and hit another one.
Right.
But I wanted to say, man, I saw the last regular season home run that Pujols ever hit. But then he gave it to the, 20,000 fans in Pittsburgh who were probably there the other night.
Then he passed Babe Ruth for number 2 in the all-time RBI list too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that hell of a career. People forget. I'm glad he had that great run at the end here in the second half to remind people that forgot just how damn good this guy has been.
Well, he was Marcus Semien, like on July 4th, Ray.
Pretty much.
He was terrible. It was really bad. And then they lit a fire under him. One last thing, I was looking at his numbers this year. He hit 7 home runs against just the Pirates. So, Ray, 1% of his home runs in his career came this year against the Pirates. I think they were serving up cookies all season to Albert Pujols.
Big number. They were trying to or not, we don't know. They just were.
Yeah. 1% of his career total coming just this year against a single team. Okay, back to football. And Ray, I guess we've got a few more things shaking here. Mac Jones probably out for week 5, but we are seeing that week 6 is possible for what that's worth.
Right.
I don't know if you caught this. Yesterday I was going through a list. Did you see how many kickers are hurt this week?
Yeah. Butker, Prater, Elliott. Yeah, a lot of them.
There's like 6 or 7 kickers that are limping around. So we like to joke and make fun of kickers. Folks, make sure your kicker is playing on Sunday.
Yeah,
there are a lot of guys that could miss action. Anything else here in the last 30 minutes or so that have popped up, Ray? I mean, we haven't checked in here for a while. Any other reports coming out?
We talked earlier about Hawkinson and Josh Reynolds returning to practice and Amon-Ra St. Brown not being at practice. We can add DJ Chark to the returning group. So as of right now, the only guy that doesn't seem like he's necessarily on the path to playing this week is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Chark was back at practice today. Justice Hill is still not practicing, so that hamstring, they talked about that. Looks like it's definitely going to keep him out this week for the Ravens. Marquise Brown's got a foot issue. He returned to practice, so he should be good to go this weekend. David Njoku's got the toe. He returned to practice, should be good to go. But here we go. Rashad Bateman, he's got a foot issue, and he's still on the sidelines today. And, what is it? Last week there were some personal things, and then his foot. And, it's not a high-volume passing offense to the wideouts anyway. Bateman now is trending to the point where Friday's vital. He may not even play this week for the Ravens, Kyle.
I guess if Duvernay is available, should people be – I'm not a Duvernay guy because the quantity isn't there. The offense really isn't built for that. But who do they got left? I'm kind of at a loss for who's left to be a wide receiver.
They signed Andy Isabella. Yeah. Duvernay, if he's available, okay. But yeah, to your point and what I said too, the Ravens don't throw outside the hash marks. They just don't do it because it's not what Lamar Jackson does well. So it's got to do a lot of scheming. Duvernay had the touchdown on the kick return, which was great. He had that catch when the ball bounced off Mark Andrews' hands because he's paying attention. A lot of what we've seen from Duvernay to date has been explosive plays, some of which aren't repeatable. And because there's a lack of volume there, you can't feel good about starting him, even if Bateman were to be out this week.
Well, let's go to that game on Sunday night as we continue to break down the matchups for week 5. It's going to be Cincinnati at Baltimore. Right now, Baltimore's a 3-point favorite. That number is going to move down if Bateman's not available. You can count on that. Over-under is actually a high one, 48.5. Now, Ray, before the Bateman news of today, my favorite prop was actually an under on Lamar Jackson passing yardage, 226.5. So I think that's going to be one that if you're sensing Bateman is out and you are into the props game, you probably want to get on that one right now, Ray, because as we speak, it's probably dropping to around 220. Right. This morning, like I said, it was at 226.5 on Jackson.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's interesting. I focused on the passing, but I went on the over with Burrow.
Okay.
So I went to the other side of things there, and in the Joe Burrow case, over 273 is a minus 115. He's gone for 275 yards in 3 of 4 games this year. I know last year was last year, and we joked about this earlier when we were talking about Darnell Mooney. But, Kyle, when a guy throws for 415 yards in 2 games, 2 times separately throws for 415 yards against an opponent, I pay attention to that. He had a game of 500 yards, I think. What was it last year? Was it 500? Whatever the hell it was. But 2 games over 415 yards. And you look at Baltimore this year, they're allowing 328 yards a game. They're getting blitzed. Amazingly, they held the Bills in check last week, right? So I think that all lines up for Joe Burrow to go over 273 this week.
Okay, I like that one. Chase is my guy to watch. It's kind of a matter of being due. Sunday Night Football, the matchup with the Ravens. I'm in on that. My guy to fade is probably Dobbins on this game. It's good to see him back, and he got some work last week. I noted this Monday. I didn't see anything that said, oh, man, he's back. He still seemed a little tentative, and we'll have to see how Baltimore plays it. Now, they're going to have to use him. I just don't expect really hefty results against the Bengals. Bengals are kind of an overlooked, if you will, defense. I mean, so much love goes to their offense. Defense is really good. I think the Ravens, it's going to be a ton of Jackson, a ton of Andrews. They'll have to spot Dobbins, but I'm not expecting any huge numbers from him. So again, watching Chase, fading Dobbins. Who are the 2 guys for you?
I'm watching Dobbins because I want to see. Last week he had the 2 touchdowns, and that's what everyone focuses on. And he scored 5 straight games at home. He's got 11 touchdowns in 17 games. Like, there's a lot of scoring here, but I want to see it too. I want to see what happens this week. I want to see the rotation this week. I want to see if his role in terms of volume increases. My guy to fade was going to be Bateman and Duvernay. I'm still going to say Duvernay. It goes to what we both said. He's averaging 3.5 targets a week. They don't throw him the ball. And Bateman's done some great things on a per touch basis, but they don't throw him the ball either. They just don't do that. So I'd still be fading Duvernay, though a little less so if Bateman is indeed out.
In all honesty, Ray, it makes you trip all over yourselves to go get Mark Andrews in DFS. I mean, that's really that's probably the adjustment here, is you just think there's more and greater of an emphasis on Andrews than there usually is. Watchability's a 4, Ray. I've said this before, having Lamar Jackson, having the Bengals, that's exciting. That's a good Sunday nighter. It may not be the most, hyped teams of all time, but I think this is one we're sticking around for on a Sunday night.
4 as well. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think that there's a lot of storylines, a lot of excitement, and 2 potentially good offenses if the things break right.
Well, let's go to another couple of offenses, Ray, where if things break right, they can be explosive. They've got 2 rather exciting quarterbacks. Let's go to Arizona this week. The Cardinals hosting the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday afternoon. Philly is a 5.5 road favorite here. And this is another big over-under. We're sitting at 49 on this one. So points expected in that Baltimore-Cincy game, as well as this one between the Eagles and the Cardinals. What's your favorite prop to jump into it immediately?
Look, I know that Kyler Murray has been my whipping boy, and he still should be. It's fully deserved. But I look at 26.5 rushing yards, and if for no other reason, it's minus 115. If for no other reason he gets there, it's because Jalen Hurts is on the other sideline. Like, I think that we're getting to that Kyler Murray zone. He's turning into the younger version of Aaron Rodgers. Like, when the storyline's there, when the storyline's there, you don't care. He's only, he hasn't run for 30 yards in a game this season, which is shocking. He'll do it this week. It's only 26.5 yards. He's motivated because of Jalen Hurts.
And I always wonder, Ray, like you mentioned, he hasn't done it yet this season. They've been a highly inconsistent offense. They never seem to find their groove. It's a terrible first half and then a catch-up kind of second half. I wonder if part of that is because of they're trying to, quote unquote, rein in Murray just a bit, make him more of a safe quarterback, not a risky quarterback. And maybe it's taken the instincts away. And maybe they say this week, hell, just let him go. Just let him be Kyler Murray. He's my guy to watch, is Kyler Murray. This is a big moment. This is, we're kind of in danger of this season and kind of the storyline spiraling out of control, where every week it's just another thing about Kyler Murray and can he get along with Cliff Kingsbury? Can he be a franchise quarterback? Like, every week we're going to have to rehash this. So maybe he puts a stop to that by putting up a big effort here against Philadelphia. I actually think the Cardinals are a pretty decent money line bet. The money line on this game is plus 195. I kind of like that on Arizona. My favorite prop, though, is James Conner under 42.5 rushing yards.
Ooh.
Guys average it. I mean, it is low, Ray, but then I looked at it. He's like 3.3 yards a carry. So he's got to get 15 carries. And I don't know if that's what Arizona can do against Philadelphia. I feel like their best bet is to attack Philadelphia through the air, to attack Philadelphia on the perimeter with Murray. So Usually that is way too low of a number, but I was looking at his carry totals, Ray. They're not all that great. He's obviously not 100%. You know, he's kind of missed a few practices here and there. So I'll chance at the under. I don't love that one. Like if I'm ranking my favorite props of the week, it's not there, but that's the one I found here. I mentioned Murray as my player to watch. My fade, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but Ray, of the 5 weeks of Jalen Hurts, I feel this will be the lowest scoring of those 5 weeks. I think, and again, this is kind of my gut saying the Cardinals win this game. I think they will be 4-1 coming back from Arizona instead of 5-0. And I think Hurts really will have to be carried by his legs this week. I just think the odds say, Ray, 5 straight really good games from Jalen Hurts. I'm not there. Now, I've been a doubting Thomas on the guy for a year now. Mostly right, but lately he's looking better. He truly is. He's looking better, and I have given him credit for that. I think this is a dangerous spot on the road in Arizona. I think the Cardinals kind of come together and see this as, hey, this is a big matchup. This is like a playoff contender we've got in our house. Murray, you mentioned the aspect of the mano-a-mano kind of setup with Hurts. I'll take Murray for the guy to watch, and Hurts is the guy to slightly fade.
Yeah, my guy to watch is Miles Sanders. And, you know, he's coming off a career high 27 carries. What is the follow-up? Is it back to 14 like we kind of saw him get in the first 3 weeks? Are they more committed to him? We know they're going to use the other guys in the backfield. We know that they're going to use him at the goal line too, unfortunately. But we all feel really confident right now, not only that Sanders is the guy, but he's a usable piece each week. But what is the follow-up after the massive workload? That's something I'm following. And on the player to fade, I didn't really find anyone here that I think anyone's really going to be playing. Okay. Rondale Moore. I mean, Rondale Moore returned last week, played 2/3 of the snaps, saw 5 targets, caught 3 balls for 11 yards, just more of the same. And as much as we want and think and believe he can take over that slot role for the Cardinals, he's had like 2 good games. He's done nothing. He catches passes at the line of scrimmage and gets tackles 3 yards later. Like that's just, and it was the same thing last week. So I think his return torpedoes Dortch, which we saw last week, but I don't know if it rises to the level of Rondale Moore being of excitement at this moment in time.
I think this game, Ray, and I hate saying this because in 2022, this is a bad bet, but I think this could be like a wild back and forth affair,
Could
like
be.
a 38-35,
Absolutely could be.
37-35. So if we had that, the watchability is a 5. I'm going to call it a 4, though, between the Cardinals and the Eagles.
I'm going to 4 as well. We're having a lot of agreement with that today.
Yeah, I think that could get wild, but we shall see. One last quick game. Tennessee is at Washington. Titans are favored by 2.5. Over under here is 43. My favorite prop, Ray, is the Commanders with the longest touchdown of the game. It's even money, plus 100. I say that because they got the playmakers. I think they have the playmakers that the Titans don't. I have lamented this receiving and passing attack from the Titans. They have Derrick Henry, but does Derrick Henry really have the 50, 60-yard rush in him? I'll take the shot on even money. Can double my money with Terry McLaurin, with Antonio Gibson, hell, maybe with Brian Robinson. Maybe Jahan Dotson is out there. Maybe Curtis Samuel. This is not going to be a good bet if Dotson and Samuel are out. Okay, so I might have to rescind this. But right now, if they are playing, I feel pretty good about that. Longest touchdown of the game going to the Washington side. What do you have as your fave?
My fave?
Fave.
Yeah.
Your favorite prop.
Yeah,
bet.
you threw me. I thought you said fade and you were just randomly changing after that whole big thing.
I just stopped there.
What's going on with my ears? Mine is, and again, this is an offense that's not very good with the Titans. It's an offense that's very boring with the Titans. You mentioned Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry for his career has never been a pass catcher, and I'm not saying he's a pass catcher now, but his over hit 12.5 yards receiving. 12.5 yards? It's minus 115. Derrick Henry has seen 11 targets the last 2 games. 11. Yeah. Now, can I count on him seeing 5 again, 6 again? No, but it's 2 games in a row where he's been utilized that way. The offense, again, it's not working. 12.5 yards, sign me up, minus 115.
That's better than mine. Good call there, Ray. I'm digging that. I might have to skip out on mine and go in your direction.
Do it, Kyle. Do it.
Player to watch, player to fade. Same position, same team. Watch Antonio Gibson, fade Brian Robinson. Kind of sounds like he's going to be active for Game 5. For anybody who's holding on to him, picked him up this week, don't get overly excited. So I'd pull back on that. I still think Gibson can do some things. I maybe people are worried about Robinson's return. Maybe they don't like what they saw from Gibson last week. We got injuries popping up, folks. Don't feel as if Antonio Gibson is doomed, okay? I still think there is value to him, and I think he maybe should show some decent, good value even this Sunday taking on the Titans. Who are your players to fade or player to fade and your player to watch, Ray?
My player to watch is Antonio Gibson because I want to see what he has to offer. He scored in 2 or 3 games. He's still getting in the end zone. His passing role is greatly diminished since week 1. We've got Robinson potentially returning all that. I want to see Antonio Gibson. He might have one more chance to do it. Otherwise, we could devolve into a full running back by committee. And then my player to fade, other than Derrick Henry, it's the entire Titans offense. Like, there's nothing here. It's another one of those games like the Giants. It's like there's nothing.
You said the same thing with the Giants. Who's got the worst offense, Ray? Giants or Titans?
I think the worst offense is the Giants, but I also think the Giants have the potential to be the better offense.
Still believing in Kadarius Toney, eh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. The Titans don't have Kadarius Toney walking through that room.
They don't. They have
Giants someday. Yeah. Watchability, I'll go with a 2.
Wow, we're mind reading today. I'm going to 2 as well. Look at us.
Okay.
We're on it today.
There you go. We got some more previews coming up tomorrow, 12 to 3 will be our run through tomorrow. Quick question in the chat room. Defensive pick, Indy or Denver? Ray, pretty simple for me. You take the home team, Denver. You're going up against Matt Ryan, who's been a mess. Give me Denver's defense.
I would take Denver as well. Let's not forget that the Colts, too, are without Shaq Leonard, who's their best defensive player.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty easy call with the Denver Broncos. Okay, dessert out the door. Ray, they have released the top 50 bars in the world. None of them are the Tiki Hut that you go to.
It's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. In fact, I don't think there's a bar from San Francisco on this list. Got a lot of New York, London. Number 1 bar in the world is the Paradiso in Barcelona. But people should look this up, Ray. Everybody's got a bucket list. This should be somebody's bucket list. If you are a true bar hopping connoisseur, get this list of 50. I mean, you'll go to Mexico City, Singapore, Bangkok, Madrid, Rome. Right here's the bucket list everybody should take aim at.
I like that very much. So, yeah, it's a very important list if indeed it is accurate.
Yeah, there's nothing from San Francisco, Ray.
That's really surprising.
Yeah, we got Dubai, we got Naples, Tokyo, Stockholm, Milan. Nothing from Northern California.
What a letdown.
Nothing from St. Louis either.
That's not
surprise. We got a lot of good bars here. Just let me stick up for the bars here in St. Louis. Okay, we'll catch you tomorrow. Corey, Nando, and friends are next. We will see you tomorrow, 12 Eastern, right here with Lunch Money on the Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
What about Zach Ertz, though, when Hopkins comes back, thinking about it long term? Do you think?
You got to continue to play the guy. I mean, the tight end position is so bad. I mean, I think this week, I got to start ranking guys like Ertz ahead of Kyle Pitts. I mean,
wow.
What do you mean, wow? What has Kyle Pitts done to continue to rank him in the top 5?
No, you're right. It's interesting, man, that he just has not come through. And I'm wondering, I mean, he had the 1 week he did, but I'm wondering if they're going to get right at all. And I'm not saying you're wrong by any stretch. He hasn't been good.
I mean, Parker Heath, the tight end for Atlanta, played more snaps than him. Yeah. Pitts ran 12 routes. Heath ran 6. Pitts had 4 targets. They're not throwing the football enough either. That's the problem. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure people don't have Pitts and Ertz anyway. Like, it's to the point with Pitts right now where you do have to consider another tight end over it. I'm not saying Cole Kmet, but if you have Njoku and Pitts, is it really outlandish to play Njoku over Pitts right now?
No.
If you don't have Kyle Pitts or you don't follow this stuff, you don't realize how bad he's been. And I only have Kyle Pitts in a best ball, in an FFPC best ball. So it's not like whatever. And I just looked at that roster. I'm like, oh, my backup is Albert Elf. Looks like I'm in trouble. And look, it should get better for him. But the guy has 10 receptions for 150 yards. No touchdowns. Here are his game logs: 2 for 19, 2 for 19, 5 for 87, 1 for 25. I mean, this is just pathetic at this point. And people have spent the 3rd round pick on it. There's probably not much you can do. I think people are like, well, I drafted him, I got to use him. You don't have to, man. You really don't. Right. If you have David Njoku, I might play him over Pitts right now. I know it sounds crazy, but we've seen 4 weeks of this garbage.
Yeah, and even a decent matchup against Tampa for him, it's the quarterback. That's the problem. It's the quarterback. We talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Drake London yesterday. Drake London is a hell of a talent. They completed 7 passes, and they won, which is the worst part. Somehow this team is 2-2.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. The Playbook with Fensty